Tonight, Wonder Woman takes a page out of Grayson's book and shows up in like 6 other series that don't belong to her. Justice League 3001 gives Superman a moment that can only be described as mind-blowing. And Sinestro shows us that the hierarchy of the DC universe is about to change. All that and more tonight on the Not-So-New 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 221 of the Not So New 52. I am your host and it's a week. Here's the thing. Last week's episode I said that I'm a horrible pitch man because last week was genuinely like the most whatever, who cares sort of week we've had in a while. This episode I should say, is much better. It is significantly more interesting. A lot more cool stuff happens, but I'm still a terrible salesman. So when I sit here and tell you, no, it's really good, you should check it out, I'm saying that through the lens of like, I can't convince you any more than you just listening. I'm not going to sit here up front and try to make you a pitch. Like, the pitch is, I've been doing this for 221 weeks. You should believe me that I can separate a good week from a bad week by now. Anyway, let me tell you what comics are coming out, and then I'll see if I got anything more to ramble about. This week we have, in alphabetical order loosely, Aquaman, Deathstroke, The Flash, Grayson, Justice League 3001, Justice League of America, Omega Man, Robin Son of Batman, Sinestro, Superman, Superman/Wonder Woman, Superman Lois and Clark, We Are Robin, Wonder Woman, and our weekly series, of course, Batman and Robin Eternal. Big things of note out of that. Honestly, we got the ending of arcs for like We Are Robin, Robin Son of Batman, and arguably Omega Man. Like, it's halfway through the series, but like that thing's really just one big arc. The other thing that is big is Justice League of America. Now, I explained this in the issue itself, but I really need to make clear for anyone who, for whatever godforsaken reason, is like, yes, sign me up for that Brian Hitch JLA book. Keep waiting. There is an issue of that book this week in name only, in the absolute most literal sense I could possibly express to you. So check it out if you have any interest in what the hell is going on with that. It's very confusing and very interesting. But yeah, overall, it's a good week. Let's get it on. JLA number 5, written by Matt Kindt, Rob Williams, and art by Philip Tan. So this was a Brian Hitch book. Brian Hitch was doing the art. Brian Hitch was doing the writing. So what is this? Well, I can say it's not even in this trade because this is not part of the JLA story. Call it a fill-in. Call it just a complete sidestep, whatever you want. But this is a Martian Manhunter story instead. So a little bit of backstory. It's barely necessary. Rob Williams is doing the current Martian Manhunter book, and Matt Kindt did a little bit of backup writing on Justice League of America, where he told a semi-origin story to Martian Manhunter, which has been completely contradicted by Rob Williams' book. So this issue is kind of a bridging the gap issue of how can that happen and also Rob Williams' book happen. So we open up this one with something that could never be, of Martian Manhunter hanging out with the Justice League, and he's just hanging around watching them, not really partaking as they're all enjoying each other. The reason it can't be is Shazam is there, and Shazam and Martian Manhunter never overlapped in time periods. But Green Lantern comes up and he offers John something to drink, and he's like, oh, no thank you. And like, he has to remind himself of human customs and all that, and he realizes Batman doesn't trust him, and he's like, I mean, I could make him trust me, but like, I would never do that. And then we see, he's out in Nevada. It reminds him of Mars. And he's like, what purpose do I have on this world? I have no idea. But like, people on Earth tell me I look like a superhero. So we cut over to Japan, and we see that I just want to say there's a whole bunch of inner monologue this entire time. It's just him talking about like, oh, my troubles in my past and I don't know what's going on and all this stuff. Just know that's happening. But he transforms into a detective and then reads the minds of other people in the police station to know what the detective should act like. So he gets in super easily. And he goes up to one of the receptionists who's clearly flirting with him, and he's like, please stop that. Also, give me all the information you have on this Mars cult thing. And she's like, right, totally. So it turns out that there's like a cult in Japan that believes that Martians have all taken over like high-paying jobs and roles, and they're guiding humanity towards the decline of everything. It's the plot of Begonia, the most recent Emma Stone movie. He's like, I mean, there are Martians, they're not wrong about that, but like, it's just me and I'm not doing that thing, so whatever. But the whole reason that he's doing that is there has been a murder, and it's they have no leads, nothing else like that. It's someone who was in this cult, and they have the word Thoth written across their chest. Now, Thoth was a character from the Matt Kindt story, where he was also like a psychic that may have destroyed Mars because his psychic powers were so terrible and infectious that it was like a plague to the Martian people as soon as they connected psychically. So he sees this guy, and it's like, okay, well, maybe it was a suicide. Maybe this other stuff was happening. And they like, if he was possessed, he could have written the word Thoth. Maybe that's what it was. So he realizes this is just a call out for him. And he starts looking around. He goes around the city. And as he's following like the psychic chain or whatever, he comes to the most recent place. But the cops are already there. And he's like, this is way too fast for the cops to be here. What the hell is this all about? And then as he's outside the window, he gets a psychic beam from Thoth, who's like, oh, hey, John, I knew you'd show up. And then all of a sudden, one of the detectives starts freaking out. His body just starts exploding open. And out of it comes the being that was previously known as Thoth. However, he says, hey, I've done some soul searching. I've lived for so long. Turns out I'm not just this kid who had psychic powers and then accidentally poisoned your whole planet 50 years ago. I'm actually this old ancient being that's psychic called the Unnamed, which at that point, that's your name. But regardless, he says that he's the Unnamed. So John comes in, the cops are all just dispersing at this point, and they start fighting against each other. And he's like, why did you do it? And I'm going to keep saying Thoth, but the Unnamed is like, oh, it was fun to tease you. You and I, we're kindred spirits, even if you don't realize it yet. So Unnamed has the upper hand. He's throwing punches, doing whatever else here. Martian Manhunter's just like, okay, I can get the gist of him. I can read a little bit of him. He's an alien serial killer whose body decayed thousands of years ago, so this is just his psychic form here. He's a disease, he's lonely, and yeah, we're alike in so many ways. So the fight continues on. Manhunter realizes he doesn't have a physical form for him to like possess or punch or anything like that, so he's not sure what he can do. The Unnamed even gets into John's mind, and he's like, oh, John, you have no clue what's coming, what you were built for. Wink, wink, the Rob Williams series. And he basically says, like, yeah, you've got memories that you won't allow yourself to access, so I can read those. And he's like, shut up, I don't have those. So as he comes in for another go around, he tries throwing more punches, doing whatever. Eventually, he somehow lands one, which, based off everything else I know, I don't understand how that happened. But, you know, the fight continues, and he's like, oh, he knows more about my past than I do. Maybe he is that strong of a telepath, or am I just too weak? And eventually the fight takes him up to the roof of this skyscraper they're on, where there's just a random old man standing up there, and he's in the middle of the two of them, and Unnamed is like, hey, John, if you come any closer, I'm gonna take his body next, and you won't be able to stop me from killing him. And John's like, oh, I've already learned so much from you during our fight. And he came to the realization that in order for the Unnamed to take a body, there has to be a mind in there. So he just wipes the old man's mind completely blank during like the transfer process, which means that Unnamed has nowhere to go. He's vulnerable, and so Manhunter throws a punch so hard it explodes the Unnamed mind. And then he's like, okay, that's it. I can sense that he's gone. He's definitely dealt with. Don't have to deal with him. And then I restore the old man's mind because I made a backup right before I did all that stuff. So at that point, he returns to Nevada. He phases through the earth down into the soil, and he is like, all right, I like humans. I'll save them. If I got to pretend like to be a superhero or whatever to do it, so be it. But I'm going to do things slightly differently here. So he goes underneath to this cave system and does a bunch of meditating, and it seems like there's objects down here he's keeping an eye on, but I don't know. One of them is his like Aquaman's trident, which clearly is not the case because Aquaman has his trident. But he's like, oh, I will protect them and I will watch and I will learn. So it's basically him just saying like, I will be separate from these people and yet amongst them all the same. And that's the thing. And then it says, check out Martian Manhunter, because that's where it all goes to. So, I mean, yes, if the purpose of this is to write a bridge to say, we already did a Martian Manhunter origin, but now we're changing it and we just have to explain what happened, like why the original origin was not original origin. Fine, it works. Thoth turns out he was not who he said he was. He was lying. He was actually like a trickster god or whatever, blah, blah. Fine. I'm okay with that. But did we need it? Was anyone really caring? Like, I appreciate the going in depth and saying like, oh yeah, we got to make sure the continuity lines up. But like, this is published during the DCU, the YOU, where continuity is kind of absolutely the least important thing. And on top of it, they just made it a random issue of Brian Hitch's JLA. I really don't understand the point of this one. It's not like it's a terrible issue. It's okay. It's not great. I wouldn't even say good. It's okay, but like, it's baffling in its creation. I don't know why they did it. It's just, I don't know. I guess all things considered, 6.5. I think that if you are reading this without knowing the Matt Kindt background, you'll still be fine. You'll understand what happens in the book as much as you would if you did read the Matt Kindt stuff, but that's not saying a lot. So, yeah, 6.5. Deathstroke number 12, written by Tony S. Daniel and James Bonny, art by Tyler Kirkham. So, last issue we had Deathstroke being forced under penalty of his daughter maybe being killed to help the Suicide Squad kill Amanda Waller. It was a whole big setup or whatever, but it ended with Black Manta trying to get his revenge against Deathstroke. This issue picks up with everything still being chaotic. It's been nearly half an hour since he broke into Belle Reve, and he's like, I don't have a lot of time before reinforcements are called in, and this is not helping anything because he is in a tank of water fighting Black Manta, and Black Manta's like, this is payback for Russia. And he's like, I could probably tell them that I was actually saving their asses in Russia, but like they wouldn't believe me, so whatever. So he ends up punching Black Manta, pushing him across the water. Manta comes at him like a torpedo because, of course, this is his turf, which Deathstroke rightly points out, and then kicks Manta up out of the water and forces him onto dry land, just being like, all right, now let's try doing this where I'm good to fight. So then we cut to about 20 hours prior. We see Deathstroke is in some sort of club. He's talking to somebody in a back room, and it's all shadowy, but he's like, look, you know how to get in and out of places. I'm going to need that. I want you to, like, come in about half an hour after everything goes down and get me an extract, because if I'm there any longer than that, then everything's gone to hell anyway. And the person takes some gold coins from when he helped Hephaestus and the gods and all that, and we don't get anything else at that point. But we cut back over to the fight between Manta and Deathstroke. They're just going at it. And Deathstroke points out, like, hey, I'm just here to like save Rose. I just want to do that and also kill Waller in the process. Is that all cool? Like, were you a part of any of that, Manta? And Manta's just like, your daughter means nothing to me. So they continue fighting. But then all of a sudden, they hear the noises through Belle Reve. The guards have managed to rally their forces, took half an hour, and now everyone's getting tear gassed and shot down and everything like that. So they realize they need to put this down quick before anything else, but a stun grenade comes in and everyone's disoriented. So Black Manta dives into the water, Deadshot gets caught by the guards, and Deathstroke grabs Harley to get away because she's the one who theoretically kidnapped Rose. So he's like, all right, look, this is all, we're running out of time. You got to take me to where Waller is now. And she's like, oh yeah, her office is right up there. And so they start making their way down the hallways. They see that a bunch of other people are rushing down the halls to get to Waller, some inmates. And so Deathstroke has to take all of them out before they kill her, because otherwise the contract won't count. And he's like, yeah, how ironic. I have to save her before I kill her. We see Harley's also jumping in because why not? She just wants to help out. And as they take out all the guys, they step into Waller's office and notice that 2 guards are there whose eyes have exploded from their heads and they're just gushing blood. And Harley's like, uh-oh, this is Pruitt, aka Snakebite, and if he's already got to Waller, she's as good as dead. So then we cut over to Waller and Snakebite, and it's literally just 2 pages of exposition for Snakebite of her just being like, oh, Pruitt, is that you? And he's like, yes, I was once the gambler known as Pruitt, and I fell in deep into debt, and so I took some experimental medication or whatever, and I got a big payday from it, but it used snake venom to treat psychosis, and it wasn't properly whatever, so I became Snakebite. And he just looks like a giant snake with like arms and legs. That's his thing. And then she's like, okay, but like, you killed people. You weren't just a gambler. Let's not pretend that's not a thing. And he's like, well, I went on to become a bank robber, but I didn't quite know how my neurotoxin powers worked to accurately just knock them out rather than killing them. So yeah, I may have killed a bunch of people. That happened. And then a guard comes in and it's just like, freeze. And then he's like, excuse me one moment. And he zaps the guard, making his eyes explode. And he's like, all right, I meant to kill that one, but the rest of them were not guaranteed kills. Anyway, I got plans for you, Waller. So then we see the U.S. military showing up. The cavalry's here. Everything's going to hell. We see a mysterious figure climbing up the outside wall in shadows. And Deathstroke's like, okay, well, they're here sooner than I would have liked them to. And unlike the guards who were throwing down tear gas, they're just killing everybody in this place. Anyone who stands up and like looks like a threat, they're dead. So as they're walking through, Deathstroke's like, okay, I got it. We got to figure out what to do here. These are my last seconds. I might end up actually dying here. To which point the shadowy figure appears, and it's Catwoman. She's got her little tracking device and she's shown up. And Deathstroke is surprised. He goes, Catwoman? And I'm like, you hired her. We saw that. That was a part of your plan. What are you talking about, Catwoman? ? Beyond that, I mean, it's an okay issue. It flies by. Snakebite's okay. I mean, here's the thing. I say that like his backstory is that he was a gambler, and that's true, it is, but what it means is that he keeps on making gambling puns. He keeps on going like, oh, time to roll the dice again, Waller. Oh, it looks like they came up snake eyes this time. And I'm like, don't just be a snake theme. Why you gotta have a gambling thing on top of it? It's too much for a villain. I looked up how much Snakebite shows up over the DC universe. Let me just say, not a lot. So yeah, this one, it's like a 7. As you know, the last issue was amusing. The last issue had some good setups, some good like payoffs and all that. This one, I'm lessened. I'm not quite as into it. It just feels like this is more of a how many people can we kill on one page at a time. Like, I don't feel like we're making as much forward progress as I would have hoped. And then that's not to say that, like, I need them to get to Wall or whatever. Clearly we're getting there, but this entire issue just kind of felt like padding for the sake of, oh no, Deathstroke's plans have gone awry, like every other time he has plans. So, 7. Aquaman number 46, written by Cullen, Bunn, art by Vicente, Cifuentes. So last issue was kind of a separate thing, where we went to an alien planet, and Aquaman saw that there was some sort of Thule prophecy or something like that, like that Thule had been all throughout the galaxy or whatever. I'll admit, I didn't fully comprehend the issue. This one gives a bit more backstory on that, because we pick back up in the Amazon jungle. We see that whatever his name is, it's something Axe, he is pleading to the Thule people, saying like, oh, everything's going to be fine, Arthur will save us, hey look, here he comes now. And then Arthur just grabs him by the throat and says like, why didn't you tell me that Mara was replaced with a shapeshifter? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, oh, it's Extriax, that's his name. He's like, I saw her, she looked like Mara, but she called herself Siren. And Extriax is like, oh, back in our culture, there were things called shifters. They could do that sort of stuff, but all of them were killed long ago. But I guess this one survived. Sorry, didn't think that would be a thing. And he's like, whatever. She's turned all of Atlantis against me. Like, that's the whole reason all this has been so hard here, and why Mara's like, I got to go out and find Mara. Like, that's my number one thing right now. And he's like, whoa, hold on. Even if she still is alive, like, if you find her, then she'll be used against you. Like, that's it. They'll assassinate her right in front of you, right before you get to her. And he's like, but I gotta save Mara. And she's like, she's not here. Like, you don't have to. So Aquaman sits down and he's like, geez, I genuinely have no idea what to do. Apparently the last issue said that there was some sort of prophecy that he would be the world ender or whatever. It's been going on for 100 years or so, plus centuries have been going by where they've been preparing, and he's just finding out about this now. So what is he supposed to do about that? And he basically says, look, you know what would be sacrificed if you destroy Thule right now, okay? Like, you can't let all those people die. And then Wonder Woman shows up and says, hey, someone want to clue me in on what's happening? And Aquaman's like, Wonder Woman, how'd you find me? And it's like, well, you took Poseidon's powers, and I'm kind of in that realm, so wasn't that hard. Also, everything that you've been dealing with in your book has had worldwide reaching consequences, and the Justice League obviously has noticed. And we've had to, like, talk to the magic side of the DC universe to figure out what the hell is going on, and they pointed back to Atlantis. Do you know what it's like having to have a conversation with John Constantine? You put me through that just because you won't be open with us in the League. And Aquaman's like, I'm sorry, I know I should have told people, but, like, how many times are you going to let Atlantis off the hook? Like, this is like the third time that Atlantis stuff has resulted in the world potentially being killed. I don't want to roll the dice too many more times on that, but I promise you I can stop this invasion. I just need more time. And it's like, what do you mean time? Like, what? Go out and punch something. What else do you need time for? And then she looks around and sees the group of Thulians and is just like, yeah, look, there's innocent people on the other side. If I destroy their world and stop this whole invasion, then they'll all die. I can't let that happen. Like, I got to try to figure out a third option here. And one of them's like, okay, well, that's fine. You can do that. But you don't have to do this alone. Like, the Justice League will help. And he's like, yeah. Question, what would Batman say? Like, what would Batman's stance be on this? Would he just destroy Thule immediately? And one was like, well, okay, he's not the one making all the decisions. We don't have to just run this through Batman. You have a say in this. And then all of a sudden they notice, like, wait a minute, hold on, something's wrong. And Aquaman points out, I've managed to stay hidden because I know what I'm staying hidden from, the Atlanteans. However, if the Justice League managed to find me, they might be able to track the Justice League members. Oh, dear God, it's all those people from Atlantis again. And it's everyone except for Gar. It's everyone except for the Aqualad stand-in. So they start attacking. They're like, haha, now we'll finally be able to kill you. And Wonder Woman helps in the fight. They just start knocking them all around. It really is barely even a fight to begin with. And once they all get knocked down, Aquaman's like, all right, I'm done with this. And he just strikes them all with lightning, zaps them all, and just being like, all right, let's secure these jackasses. And Wonder Woman's like, okay, but like, for right now, we're going to need to find somewhere to hold them, and we need to find out how they were able to find you, and like all that sort of stuff. And Wonder Woman's like, all right, but the time for hiding is over. We need to go out and do this now. And whatever you do, know that you're not doing it alone. So we see X-Tree-X is back with the people and just like, yeah, see? He can protect us. He saved us from those assassins. And they're like, yeah, with Wonder Woman's help. Also, there's like 1,000 more Thulian assassins. We're screwed, man. And everyone starts panicking and start getting up to the X-Tree-X is like, it's all going to be okay. But then we cut over to, I assume, Amnesty Bay. It's Amnesty Bay, where everyone's just minding their own business, doing whatever, when all of a sudden there's a rumble and a Thulian temple thing shoots up from the end of a pier, and oopsie, it's come back home. And that's the issue. It's a pretty fast read, all things considered, but I can't help but feel it's being dragged out. And that's not to say that I don't think that there's not more that could be explored. I think there is, but it feels like the things that we're dealing with here are the same things we dealt with an issue ago and 2 issues ago and 3 issues ago. Like, we hit the thing of Aquaman has to make these choices that are going to put him between Atlantis, the rest of the world, and Thule. And like, he has to defend the innocence of Thule. Fine, fair. But there's deeper connotations here. There's like this fact that Wonder Woman comes in here and says like, hey, look, the league will have your back. Like, whatever you want to do, you just got to like call us in for backup or whatever. There could have been a whole thing, a whole lead up to that of like, I can't do this alone. I need to call the league. But like, what'll they think? What of all that stuff? Instead, we just get it dropped in here. And within like 3 panels, Wonder Woman's like, nah, you're good. Don't worry about it. So yeah. And then on top of it, like all the stuff of, what is the world thinking? What is Atlantis thinking? We're so focused on this like small little group that's hunting down Aquaman that like, I don't know. And even then, the last issue just felt now even more like filler than anything else. Just like, oh, we just need to fill out another one here, and then we'll send him back to Earth without any sort of mention of how he even got there. So, nah, I think I'm a little done with this storyline. Hopefully it'll be wrapped up in like the next issue or so, but like the moment that they were fighting a giant kaiju coming out of Thule, it felt like we were at the peak. It felt like, okay, end it here, do what you got to do, and that's it. But here we are, still going. So 7, 6.5, I don't know, somewhere in there. I'm gonna say 7 officially, but like just know it's super low and it's barely squeaking up to that. Sinestro number 17, written by Cullen Bunn, art by Brad Walker, Neil Edwards, and Szymon Kudranski. So last issue we had Sinestro coming down to Earth, meeting up with Black Adam, because Black Adam at some point dealt with the paling, dealt with the whole cult of no emotion, and inside of the tomb holding the thing he fought, turns out it was a guardian of the universe. So this issue picks up with Sinestro just kind of looking over various people across the DCU, Deathstroke, Scarecrow, Harley, and Wonder Woman, and just pointing out this entire planet's ruled by fear. They fear what they know, they fear what they don't know. It's all just fear. Like, they're shackled down by it. And then we cut over to the fight where they're both fighting against this mummified version of a Guardian, and the Guardian's just shouting out with like beams of energy going out of its eyes, saying like, oh, there's too much emotion around here. It's bloated with emotion. We have to purge it. And so Sinestro points out, hey man, I don't think you killed this thing right. You want to go again? And he says, yep. And Black Adam just punches through him, turning him to dust. However, as it plummets to the Earth, it immediately reforms even more solidified and back to its normal form than before. So it can heal itself. And Adam's like, all right, fair enough. But as he gets back into the fight, one of the energy beams or whatever ends up hitting him. And Sinestro points out that, like, it'll mess up your psyche. Don't touch it. It'll be a problem, but he's immediately set before all of these Egyptian gods who are like, Black Adam, you suck. You failed us. You couldn't protect your people. And he's shown visions of all his people dead. And he's like, no, you put a plague upon them. And they're like, no, that wasn't us. This was a mortal who did it. And you didn't do anything to stop it. If you want to get the revenge, if you want to do whatever you can here, you need to say your magic word. Say the magic word. Do it. Say it right now. And Sinestro is like, okay, as long as he's in his Black Adam form, he's fine, but like he's able to fight at the very least. But if he turns into a mortal, he's screwed. There's no way he's going to be able to stand up. So don't say the word, bro. We cut over to Warworld real quick, where we see a bunch of people who were affected by the paling that were, I believe, Yellow Lanterns. Sornik is working on them. And when all of a sudden their heart rates start changing, everything starts going on. She thinks they're waking up, but all of a sudden this same blue energy that comes out of the Guardian's mouth starts coming out of theirs. And they say that emotional countermeasures have been detected. So they're not really able to make any of their constructs or anything like that. It seems like they're contacting someone or sending out some sort of beacon. And right at that moment, the alarm goes off saying, hey, someone has intruded on Warworld. We got to deal with this. And we cut to Wonder Woman, who's shown up because, yeah, it's Warworld, just in the vicinity of Earth. Clearly she would care about that. But we cut over to Black Adam again, who's still trying to fight against it. And he's about to say Shazam when all of a sudden Sinestro puts a little muzzle over his mouth and says, hey, you got to be able to fight against it. I know it's possible because I did it, so you can too. I believe in you, Black Adam, but here's a little helping hand. And he gets a ring to put itself onto Black Adam's finger, and we get Black Adam, the Yellow Lantern. So immediately, Sinestro points out that, like, oh, the paling thing's only able to fight one emotion at a time. He was dealing with Black Adam's fury, and so I switched it over to yellow energy, fear, and now whatever, no problem. So at that point, we see they both charge in, constructs at the ready. The Guardian just throws them away and says, like, oh, okay, whatever, but like, it's stupid to fight against me. It'll still happen in due time. And then he starts flying off. So at that point, Black Adam's like, okay, why'd he leave? He could have easily outlasted us. And Sinestro's like, I don't know. He's not invincible. We can kill him. Trust me. I've done it before. So at that point, we see that he gets the warning of saying, hey, yeah, there's something dealing with Warworld. Something's going on. We got to get up there. So they fly up into space. And they're also chasing after the Bishop, as he's called. But it's too fast. And then they see one of the Yellow Lanterns is taken out. It's Reigen or whatever his name is. So Sinestro's like, okay, well, if this is happening, there's a formidable enemy nearby. We got to pay attention. And they look over, and Wonder Woman's just kicking everybody's ass. Every single Yellow Lantern's just falling down. And she's like, hey, Sinestro, come down here and tell me what the hell you're doing here. And Black Adam's like, okay, well, I mean, we can hit her. We can, like, send her off of this planet and onto another. Like, we could do that if we really wanted. And Sinestro just steps in, tells his people to stand down, just be like, Wonder Woman, hey, snap, snap, snap. And like, focus on me. This is all a misunderstanding. And Wonder Woman's like, if you snap your fingers one more time, I'm going to break them off. So he's like, look, the Green Lanterns aren't a thing anymore. I don't even know if you knew that. Yellow Lanterns have come in. I'm trying to protect your world, okay? Because there's this whole thing of the paling, and I'm dealing with it, but like, you gotta just give me some space to work here. And then he gets an alert from Sornik, and Sornik's like, yeah, we got like a bunch of people in here that seem to be signaling something. We better figure that out. And Sinestro's like, son of a... Okay, Wonder Woman, look, if there's an imminent danger, if you want to join us, that's fine. And Wonder Woman's like, I don't think you got to worry about that imminent danger. And we cut around again to Scarecrow, Deathstroke, Harley, Wonder Woman. They're all looking up now. And she's like, whatever you were hunting, it's now hunting you. And we see that the entire sky is now filled with paling ships. They're all here, and Sinestro makes the thing of saying, you know, fear is an old god to Earth. It's always been around, but now the paling have shown up to kill that old god and replace it with nothing. It's fine. It's a good issue. I mean, I'm a little bit... hesitant of Wonder Woman being here. Not because I don't think that it doesn't make sense. Again, it does. If Warworld just shows up in the middle of the sky, like, yeah, clearly some hero should be like, oh, maybe we deal with that, because that's kind of an issue. But, like, from a writing perspective, what is Wonder Woman going to offer here that, like, some other hero wouldn't? Well, like, I guess you couldn't do, like, Flash. He wouldn't be able to get up there. Batman's out of commission. Superman's doing his own thing. Maybe Wonder Woman's just by default the only one that would make sense here, but I don't know. It just strikes me as there for the sake of why not? So we'll see if they manage to turn it around. Maybe there's some very specific, like, story reason we can get Wonder Woman here in this issue. Something to do with the lasso, something to do with her godhood. I don't know. But it just doesn't seem quite right yet. Beyond that, I like the Black Adam stuff. I like all the other stuff going on here, so kudos to that. I'd say this is 7.5. I think it's easily earned that. Wonder Woman number 46, written by Meredith Finch, art by David Finch. So last issue, Aegis showed up, killed Donna Troy, said, hey, Wonder Woman, I want to work with you. And then it was revealed that the person behind all of this was actually the goddess Irene, who is the goddess of peace. So this issue, honestly, it feels longer than usual. It may not be, but a lot of the issue, and I'm going to say this up front, is Irene just continuously, nonstop saying, Wonder Woman, you are such a shit god of war. You suck at it. Ares, my love, should have never put you in the place he would hate what you become now. You suck. That just is throughout the whole issue, just an underlying thing. But we open up this one, and she's basically like, all right, well, you are a disappointment. And she zaps him with energy, and Wonder Woman's like, how dare you? He was just a child. He didn't know any better. And she's like, nah, shut up. He totally knew better. Like, you don't know anything about being the god of war, Wonder Woman. And that's the whole reason all this happened here. And then all of a sudden there's a flash of light, and little baby Zeke appears. And Wonder Woman's like, no, not baby Zeke. Don't bring it into it. But Ariane just continues her monologue, and Wonder Woman's like, she doesn't even realize that he's here. Like, what? Why? What the hell is Zeke doing here then? What happened? What's going on? And Zeke just starts like crawling over to Donna, and Wonder Woman picks up Zeke, and it's just like, okay, well, I'm not going to let anyone hurt you, Zeke. And she tries pleading with Irene, and it's just like, hey, listen to me. Like, I don't want to do anything that's like going to hurt you or anything like that, but maybe if you think I'm so bad at being the god of war, you can talk to me. We can have a dialogue. Let's do that. And she's like, nope, too late for that. You took him away from me. And one of them was like, what, Ares? Did you two have a thing? And it's like, oh, how dare you? And so she says, all right, we're going full Christmas Carol here. And she teleports to a world without war. Like, the concept of war is not a thing. And we get teleported into a sweatshop, and she's like, what do you see? And Wonder Woman's like, a bunch of people who are suffering under the weight of oppression, the threat of violence, the people who need someone to help them. And Irene just laughs, and she's like, no, these are people who don't know how to fight for themselves. These are people who don't know how to stand up under that unifying cause and get out from the oppression that they are there. Without a god of war, there's no drive to fight, to be able to get out of there without seeing like all the different ways of how it's going to go horribly wrong or whatever. All right, next up. And she just clicks over, and Wonder Woman's like, okay, well, first off, they land in what is essentially a Nazi rally. It's modern, but it's the same. And he's like, but wait a minute, hold on. If there's no war, wouldn't that mean that by default we would have a world full of peace? You're telling me we're going to have a crazy-ass dictatorship under peace? And Irene's like, no, you're misunderstanding what war is. War is not violence. The two are separate. There would still be violence. And without war, without the unifying idea of being able to raise up against oppression, all that's going to happen is that the rich and powerful are going to use violence to take from the lesser. So yeah, we're just going to have a bunch of dictatorships. That's what would happen without war. And Wonder Woman's just like, okay, well, like, this still wouldn't happen because we have the Justice League and I'm on it and, like, everything would be fine. And she just laughs. And Arian's like, okay, yeah, if you want to pretend that the Justice League is able to stop every single dictatorship, you go ahead and pretend that, honey. And all this while, she's holding Zeke as well. Like, nothing's being made on it. Nothing's commented on it. So then we flash over to, like, actual war. And she's like, all right, look at this. Like, don't you see the beauty in it? And it's just caveman times. Like, tons of people just slaughtering each other for no reason. And Wonder Woman's just like, this sucks. I hate everything about this. I don't want this to ever happen again. And Arian's like, you're just stupid. You really don't get it. Like, what she points out is that there's a balance to things. And the reason she's acting so crazy is because Wonder Woman not taking her role as the god of war and doing the war stuff has made it so that the goddess of peace can't do the peace stuff. If there's no war, there can't be peace. And therefore, Arian's losing her goddamn mind. So we see, some more wars and stuff happening, and she's just like, look at it. Yes, it's supposed to be ugly and horrible and violent and tragic, but, like, it's necessary. You need it to happen in order for there to be balance. And Wonder Woman's like, no, I just can't. We're not going with that. I'm going to be doing things. That's probably why Ares picked me to be the next God of War. Because, like, I'm going to be doing things differently. And Ami's like, shut up. No. That's bad. And this is where she really just starts looping. Like, she's just stuck in this thing of like, no, you suck. Everything sucks. It's about restoring the beauty, whatever. And during this period, Wonder Woman's so overcome with emotion or whatever that she starts crying tears of blood. And Arian sees this and is like, what the? Oh my God. I can't even believe the whole reason that you're, like, not using your power, whatever, you're not directing your power out the world, is because you're directing it inwards. You have all this inner conflict now, and it's literally killing you. And she's like, well, fine, if I won't be what you want, as long as I'm the god of war, I'm going to prevent that, even if it kills me. And Arian's like, or I could just kill you now. And she zaps with energy. She moves, getting Zeke out of the way, sets Zeke down in a safe corner, and she's like, all right, for whatever reason, Arian, like, doesn't even notice you're here, so stay put, I'm a go fighter. And so Wonder Woman jumps in, and Arian's like, you're an Amazon, aren't you supposed to be, like, all bloodthirsty and war hungry or whatever? And Wonder Woman's like, the stronger you are, the less people ask you to prove it, but yeah, I'll still prove it. And she just lands solid uppercuts into Arian, and Arian is like, yes! This is what I wanted. This is exactly it. So once again, Zeke's going over to Donna, who's turned to stone at this point, and he's about to put his hand on her when all of a sudden Zeke's mom, who I can't remember the name of at this point, and Hera show up. And Wonder Woman's still kicking Ares' ass, and she's like, Hera, where the hell have you guys been? Why is Zeke here? And they're like, we don't know. We have no idea why Zeke showed up here. But he did, and it took us a while to figure out where he theoretically could have teleported to. So, yeah, we got him, and we'll bail. We're good. All the while, Ares is, again, still going on of like, oh, you see my love. She's weak, and she will never be worthy. So Hera tries to teleport out. Something's blocking her, unable to leave. Zeke gets his mom's attention and is like, Mama, look, and, like, points over to Donna. As the fight continues on, Diana's like, okay, I've tried talking to her. I've tried punching her. But she's clearly having an extreme mental break. So let me go back to the talking thing again. And she's like, Irene, I don't want to hurt you. Just talk to me. And then Irene, she's like, shut up. And she starts growing to, like, double, triple, quadruple her size. She grabs hold of Diana and just starts forcing her down to the ground. And she's like, no, I'm the god of peace. Not you. Me. Stop doing this. And as she's pushing her down, we see Zeke finally reaches out and touches Donna. And then all of a sudden, Ares and Apollo are reborn. They are just there. And Irene looks up and is like, oh, baby baby, it's you, and just runs over and gives Ares a giant hug, and he's like, oh, darling, I miss you so much. And Hera's like, what the hell just happened here? And we see Donna, she's now restored as well. She gets up, she thanks Zeke, and is just like, oh, I will be worthy of your gift, blah, blah, blah. And Diana walks up just being like, Donna, what the hell just happened? Do you have any idea of anything here? And she's like, okay. Turns out, since the beginning of the New 52, when Zeus died, it's all been part of his plan. And the plan was that the Fates have been, because they were born of the gods, they're too intertwined with the godlyhood. And as, you know, the gods have been losing faith, they have less followers, they've been losing power. And if the Fates lose their power, then everything's screwed. So all of this, the Fates dying at Aegis' hands, possibly even the death of Ares and all that other stuff, have just been a gambit that Zeus set up to have the Fates be reborn, specifically now as Donna, because Donna is not of the gods, she is of the earth. And so she'll outlast all of any problems or anything like that. And they just let that hang, and then Aegis gets up from the rubble, and Ares just like, oh no, you don't, zap, and just kills him. And that's the end of the issue. Like, we don't even get like one more page to say like, oh, well, I'm glad everything worked out, or hey, Ares, you're back, you're God of War again. Like, nope, zap. So I really do like this issue. I look, historically on this show, you go back to like Swamp Thing issues, Phantom Stranger issues. I'm always a fan of when we get like talky and philosophically, and when it's something that feels like it is actually a point being made rather than just like, oh no, killing people's bad. Like, yeah, no, we get it, comic book. But this one, I like the idea of like, war is a necessity for there to be peace, and like the arguments they're made in. I don't think, you know, it's perfectly sound logic, but I like the way that the book presents it, and I like the way that it makes it an actual thing that Diana can't just punch her way out of, because even if she beats Ares down, it's still going to be a problem. So no, I think it's a solid thing, and the only thing I'll say is that the ending feels a bit rushed. That's probably the only major issue I have with it. So overall, I'm going to give it like an 8.5. I enjoyed myself reading it the whole way, and I look forward to, if there's going to be any fallout to this, what it will be. Superman Wonder Woman number 23, written by Peter Tomasi, art by Doug Mahnke. So last issue, I believe, was the issue where Clark and Diana actually like broke up. I think that happened last time, but the big ending of the issue was, in order to find this energy source, they stole Parasite and started beating him up and started offering him a deal. So this just continues with that, where Parasite's like, what kind of deal are we talking there? And they continue to like toss him around and just like treat him like trash as he's throwing out like insults or whatever like that. But they basically say, look, you can track and eat this energy up. You just have to lead us to where it is. And in return, we'll let you go. We're just not even going to bother to try. Like, you do what you got to do, and then we're done. And she's like, okay, well, why can't you guys? You guys got Justice League tech. Why not you? And like, it's cloaked. We can't find it, but we think you guys will be able to. And he looks over at Wonder Woman and says, like, if you plan on letting me go, I want to hear your girlfriend over here say it. And then Wonder Woman just like starts throwing him around the whole entire woods they're in. And she's like, when Superman offers you a sweetheart deal, you say yes. So he's like, all right, yep, fair enough. First things first, you got to take this thing off me that's restraining me. And then he gets down on the ground, and Superman's like, all right, go, eat. And he's like, I can't, look at me. I'm emaciated. I need a little bit of power. Superman, no offense, you don't have a lot of power anymore. But Wonder Woman, god damn, you got something in you that I would not mind tasting. And Superman's like, I'm about to beat the ever-loving crap out of this guy. But he says, look, I just need 5 seconds of holding your girlfriend's hand. That's it. We do that, and then I'll be good to go. And she's like, fine, whatever, 5 seconds, I can take that. But if you take even one more second, it passes Superman her sword. It's just like, if you take even one more second, I will cut off your arm. And he's like, fair enough. So they hold hands, the energy transfer starts happening. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. It's still going, and Superman's like, all right, here we go, and it's like about to cut, and then Parasite lets go at the last second, and she's like, yeah, I'm good, don't worry about it. So Superman's like, all right, cool, now get busy tracking. And Parasite gets down on its knees and like plunges his hand into the earth and says like, all right, I tapped into the global magnetic field, I felt for little fluctuations, and I think I found your power source. It's a doozy. So then we cut over to the villains, which is Vandal Savage and that guy who was the Secretary of State or whatever, the Chief of Staff of the President. I will never remember his name, but regardless, we see that Vandal Savage is admonishing him, saying, hey, be patient. And he's like, I've waited 600 years. Is that not patience enough? And Vandal Savage is like, no. I'm literally an immortal, so no, 600 years is nothing. It doesn't matter at all. These plans we've had have been going on for millennia, and they're take over the world level plans. So whatever it is that you want out of this, shut up. And the Chief of Staff guy's just like, all right, look, it's been a long time since I was a boy, because he calls him boy. And he's like, oh, well, a parent sees the child he raised in his mind's eye. And then the TV turns off, and we see that the Chief of Staff goes down into his little secret bunker thing where he has all the different energy-based villains that he's collected from Steele's lab. And he says, yes, well, that's why I'm going to have to kill you, Father. Also, Firestorm is in there. He's up in a bubble being drained. They don't even draw attention to it, but like it's definitely Firestorm. So we see they're in Kentucky. They've followed Parasite here, and he's like, oh, it's in this lake, that's where we got to go. And they're like, cool, let's go. And he's like, no, I have a fear of drowning, you guys go on without me. And one of them's like, oh, it's okay, the drowning won't kill you, it's the lack of oxygen that will. And he's like, oh, much better, thank you. So we see that all the guards of this place have the ability to turn themselves into black holes, which I believe was mentioned in a previous issue. So as they come in and start knocking out guards, Parasite's just eating him up, and he's like, oh, all the better for me. Yes, please change as much as you want. And Wonder Woman's trying to hold him back a little bit, but, you know, we'll see how well that goes. We come across a hatch, and they're like, all right, it's down here. I feel it. And so they all go down. They come across this big sealed door, and when they open it up, inside is just the room. It's all the villains with the energy stuff. Firestorm's up in the middle being held captive, and we see on the big TV is the Chief of Staff guy. Whatever his name is. I really don't think they ever actually say it. I could be entirely wrong. No, seriously, I don't think they ever say it. So the Chief of Staff guy's just like, hey, hi, I kind of hope that you would come in like, I don't know, trying to fight or something like that. Like, you know, coming through the roof. I had a whole bunch of contingency plans, but all right, whatever. You want to come in through the main door, that's fine. Sure, we can do that. And he's like, oh, show yourself. And it's like, why would I do that? No, I'm going to stay behind my big TV and fight you with my energy things. All of them have devices in their head ready to do my bidding. So big fight breaks out. It continues for like 12 pages. The big thing is that Parasite does actively save Superman and Wonder Woman. He comes in and it's just like, oh, hey, I got you. And he sucks the energy out of the things that were attacking them. And, you know, he's pumped. Everybody he's attacking is just super energized. So every time he's attacking one of them, he's getting stronger. But we see Wonder Woman is caught up in something where Superman notices there's this big pool in the middle of the place, and he's like, oh, Diana, please, you gotta watch out. And then all of a sudden she's caught up in a mech suit furnace looking thing. I really don't know what it is, but it seems to be controlling her as well. So that's where we leave off. I like Parasite. Parasite's always hit or miss for me. I feel like, no offense to the authors of that book, but New Suicide Squad doesn't handle Parasite well. He's too much. He's their big hitter character, but they don't want to have a big hitter character, so they just write him into like an energy coma anytime it's being inconvenient. So a little bit iffy there, but when it comes down to this one, I feel like, you know, Superman's a heavy hitter, usually. Wonder Woman's definitely still a heavy hitter, so it makes sense he's here and he's able to hold his own, and so they could just write him funny. Like, he's just a well-written character. Beyond that, look, the Chief of Staff character is not a good character. I don't know if they're going to give him some level of depth, say that he's like Vandal Savage's actual son. I guess that's the implication here, but Is Vandal Savage's thing genetic? Is being immortal, does that also mean all of his kids are immortal? In which case, shouldn't there just be like an entire race of immortal savages? Is that the reveal, that there is that? Because if so, called it. But beyond that, I mean, this guy's just not interesting. Maybe we'll get something, but I really don't care about his villain plan. So I'm going to say this one is a 7.5. Art also is fantastic. I really do like the way it's done. So yeah, 7.5. Superman number 46, written by Gene Luen Yang, art by Howard Porter. So last issue we had Superman, in chasing down Hoarder Root, joined a wrestling thing of gods that have all been forgotten, and they use wrestling storylines to keep their myths alive. Roll with it. So this issue picks up with, God, I always forget her name. Condisi? I don't know. Regardless, that woman from the last arc and Jimmy Olsen, they are at the Metropolis Airport. They're trying to find leads on where Clark went. She just starts talking to a security camera by going 0110, and it goes 1101. And then all of a sudden, they've got an image of her an image of Superman on a plane. And it's like, oh, looks like he was following up on the lead I gave him for Hoarder, and he's out in Oakland, California. And we see Superman's in the middle of Myth Brawl, and he's helping the myth of this crow god named Hemosu. Or maybe he's the sun god of Hemosu. I don't know. Regardless, he's taken the role of it, and he's punching out the crow guy from stealing the sun, quote unquote. And then he gets up in front of the audience, and he's like, "Oh, as you lie there broken, you best remember that nobody messes with Superman." And everyone goes crazy in the crowd for him. We see he throws down the mic, and he goes backstage again, and everyone's like, "Oh, great job, fantastic. By the way, you got a bruise on your cheek. Let me heal that up." And that is Shahrazad, who is like the leader of the entire, I keep looking for the right word, arena, syndicate, whatever you want to call it. And apparently her entire healing thing is that she has to say the actual backstory, like the true story of whoever it is she's healing, for it to work. So she starts going through Superman stuff, saying like, "Oh yeah, you came from a doomed planet, kindly couple, all that stuff. But when you arrived here, you were beloved for a while, and then everything started falling apart, and now you realize that people didn't like you because you were good. They liked you because you were strong." And Superman's like, that's not true. And she's like, "It's got to be true. You're healed. It's the only way that works." So he tries to take off, and then Hemosu, who's one of the people that he fought with immediately as he got there, is like, "Hey, you and me got unfinished business." So we cut over to Jimmy and Condisa, who are like just trying to get some food out here in California. They go to a Big Belly Burger, and Jimmy has a flashback to like one of Jimmy's first days, and Clark took him out to Big Belly Burger, and then all of a sudden Clark disappears, and Superman starts knocking a robot down on the street outside, and Jimmy's taking pictures, and he's like, "Clark, I can't believe you went to the bathroom. You just missed the craziest thing." So then we go back to Hemosu and Superman, and it turns out Hemosu doesn't hate Superman. He like came in and he's like, "Hey, I want to fight Superman. We're going to do a full drag out thing." And neither of them gave up. Neither of them conceded. So it was the first draw ever in Myth Brawl history. So now they have this respect for each other. And Himosu's like, "I want you to come out and get some drinks with me. You always keep on hiding away and like doing whatever. You got to come out with me now." So they do a bit here where he's still wearing like a luchador mask, and he takes it off, and underneath he looks completely identical. And as he goes inside of this like super exclusive bar, he invites Superman inside, and it turns out that inside are, I believe, a bunch of like ancient Korean spirits or gods, which Heimosu comes from as well. So he buys some drinks for Superman, and they get to talk, and it's just like, "Hey, what do you do? Why do you keep on hiding away? Why don't you join the rest of us out here and like have some fun or whatever?" And Superman says, "I've been looking for that one guy, Apolaki, who was cloned. I need to figure out what happened to him," and doing all that stuff. And he's like, "Well, I mean, he's a god. Whatever, who cares? As long as people keep believing in him, we keep telling his story, he'll come back, no problem." And Superman's like, "Right, but what about in the meantime? And also, someone is cloning gods? That's kind of an issue we got to deal with." So Heimosu points out two other spirits in there who apparently had a thing with Apalaki, and so they bribe the bartender to have them come over, and then Superman's just like, yeah, hi, I'm Superman. They're all impressed or whatever. And then he's like, yeah, cool. Could you tell me about Apalaki? And one of them, who's literally just a ghost, her name is, I honestly don't know. She apparently was seeing him, sleeping with him, and Apalaki went off to a girl with metal arms named Ure, and then all of a sudden he got like bagged up by a bunch of guys with no faces, and she's like, and all the better for it, he was a jerk. And Superman's like, wait, hold on, how did you saw this happen? What, were you stalking him? Like, what's going on? And she's like, no, I'm a ghost. I was haunting him. It's what I'm supposed to do. So she gives away the location, says like, yeah, you know, it's where do you think a secret hideout would be around here? And then we see, as they're leaving the bar, Superman wants to go off and do his thing. Himosu's saying, no, let's go for another drink. Jimmy and Candice are like, hey, we found you. Jimmy's here because he wants to write about the real Superman, the one that's like truth, justice, and the American way. And he got fired from the planet because even Perry White's putting out how Superman's a jerk, but like he can put it on his blog. And then Himosu's like, yo, you want to see the real story? Check out the wrestling match, $20 a head. And Jimmy's like, Are you fighting for money, Clark? And Clark is like, I should tell him no, but I don't. I want to not put him in more danger. So we see that there's this giant-ass tower in the middle of San Francisco, and that's where Yuri's hanging out. And Superman just shows up and being like, oh, okay, I see all of these computers or whatever. I've put everything together that you particularly didn't kill me because you wanted to recharge my powers or whatever, and that's why you are collecting energy to clone me the same way that you cloned Apalaki. And it's like, oh no, our plans are so much bigger than that. However, we did do exactly that. And then this sand clone of Superman comes in, and he starts fighting our Superman, and the sand clone has all of the powers that were drained away from Superman. So he has like ice breath, and he's like flying around and all that. He's got a lot to him. And Superman uses his deductive reasoning to say, oh, he must also have super hearing, because that's been kind of weaker on my side, but he doesn't have all the experience to know how to filter it out. So Superman just boxes his ears, and he's like, okay, now he's probably going to use his heat vision. I'll hold up this panel, which will reflect it back at him, and boom, all done. And the sand clone fires its heat vision, but it doesn't aim at Superman. Turns out, Jimmy showed up. And Candice is there, and they followed Superman, and Jimmy gets zapped in the stomach. And Superman's like, what the hell were you doing here, man? He's like, I knew you were a hero. So, looks like he's dead. And then Hoarder pops on the TV, and he's like, hey, remember how you said a few issues ago that if anybody ever hurts you, like your friends or whatever, that you're going to come after them and, like, kill them? Let's see it, big boy. And then he just keeps taunting Superman to say, come on, come hurt me. So that's the issue. It's an issue. I don't know. It's weird because the Hoarder Root stuff is obviously like the story. It's obviously what we need to be following on. So I'm glad that it's there, but I kind of wanted to just hang out in Myth Brawl for a while. Like, hopefully it keeps coming up. I have no reason to think it won't, but like, I kind of wanted that just be the centerpiece for a little bit, you know? But no, this is fine. It's an okay enough, like, okay, we're using this as the trajectory to get to there. God knows there's a lot of overlap between comics fans and wrestling fans, so this is that nice little middle section. But yeah, overall, I'd say this is probably just a 7 for me. It feels a bit too convenient that Jimmy comes out of nowhere. Like, yes, he's in the city, but like, come on, he just shows up into that room, and then same sort of thing of Superman just putting together the whole plan, and Yuri's like, yep, that's how it was. Like, you know, give it an extra few pages. Give it a little bit more that we can work on there. Do we really need the Jimmy Olsen flashback at Big Belly Burger? So yeah, 7 for this, but, you know, keep going with the Myth Brawl. I like that. Superman, Lois and Clark #2, written by Dan Jurgens, art by Lee Weeks. So last issue, we got kind of the intro to the post-crisis Superman, pre-Flashpoint Superman, and the big thing at the end was we were looking for something called the Oblivion Stone, or there was some alien looking for that, and also they were trying to stop Hank Henshaw from becoming Cyborg Superman in this timeline. So we pick up a couple years after they arrived. Toddler John is just moseying about the house, playing with his toys. Lois is typing up something for the local paper. And she's just talking, saying like, oh yeah, we have to do this to make money. But, you know, I won Pulitzers before. Don't forget about that, John. And then it looks like the guy who originally owned this house named Sheldon Montgomery. He shows up and he's like, wow, you guys really put in the elbow grease. You made this place super awesome and cool looking. And she's just like, yeah, you know, doing what we can. It's great. And she's basically, he just came by looking for Clark. He wants his help fixing something. And she has to make up an excuse of like, oh, he's out at the store getting parts. When in reality, he's underneath Chicago because Chicago's about to fall into the ground because of these massive earthquakes that are happening. And it turns out it's just some guy. His name is Shockwave, and he has a suit that lets him make earthquakes. And so Superman's like, okay, I gotta just zoom around and not be seen, but I'm just gonna take away his suit. And he like throws Shockwave up in the air, disassembles his suit, and then lets him land on top of a building. And he's like, all right, well, there you go. That's all I need to do. And he figures out like, okay, I can't let anyone else get their hands on the armor. But before he can do anything, a jet comes in and is like, hey, there's something flying in the air around here. It's probably related to these earthquakes. Shoot it down. So Superman has to use his heat vision to intercept the missile. And then he just takes off at like Mach speeds. And the jet's like, all right, well, I guess that's it. So Superman, not knowing what to do with the armor, he's like, I guess I'll stash it in my shed, but I need to figure out something better with that. And when he gets back home, Lois is like, oh, how's Chicago? And she's like, you know, it's same as always. So we cut up to now. The spaceship, the Excalibur that the Henshaw clan was on, has landed, and no one is inside of it. It's completely empty. And we get this guy named Mr. Chambers, who is like a special agent or something like that. He comes in to the military, gets the whole sit rep, and he's like, that's weird. Where did the whole crew go? There's no sign of like any bodies or anything. There's no communications while they were out in space, and yet somehow the ship landed without exploding. Seems to me like something interfered. And they get some footage that shows that there is a figure that was helping to guide it back down to Earth. And he's like, yep, all right, that's something. Let's keep an eye on it. So we go to John's school. He got in trouble for looking at the Excalibur landing or whatever in class on his phone. A couple of kids are making fun of him because he's always in trouble. He's always doing something. And one kid's like, yeah, well, it's good that you're such a suck up so you don't get in any real trouble. And John's like about to throw punches at him. But it turns out Lois is already in the principal's office. She separates the kids, dissembles the situation. And as they're leaving, the principal's like, hey, by the way, Miss White, why don't you write anything for the school paper anymore? And or for the town's paper anymore. And she's like, oh, you know, I'm too busy being a mom. Can't write it all. And John's like, but Mom, I see you writing all the time. And she's like, shut up. Not supposed to know that. So they're driving home and she's trying to give him a lecture saying like, hey, you can't not be doing your math class. And he's like, I can do math anytime. The ship was only going to come down once. I wanted to see what was up with it. It's so much cooler. And Lois is like, look, if I had a smartphone at your age, I'd absolutely be doing the same thing. So like, fair enough. When all of a sudden, a car comes up behind them and starts running them off the road. They go down into a field. Some gunmen come out. They're casing the car. Lois manages to kick the door into one of them and grab their gun. And she's like, oh God, what about John? She runs around the back. John's knocked out another guy with a tire iron. And she's like, how in the... Okay, whatever, let's go. So they run off into the tree line. She gets on the phone and calls Clark, says, hey, this is Protocol Omega. Get over here now. And we see that Lois is like, don't worry about it. We're going to be fine, but you need to take off into the woods, okay? I will find you, I promise. And we see a whole bunch more gunmen are coming up, but then there's practically a horror movie scene where one by one they just all get picked off from an unseen Superman who's like picking them up into the sky, dragging them underground, like nothing can stop him. So by the time that Lois is like, hey, it sounds quiet, let's see what's going on, Clark's already come around and he's like, hey guys, I got your call. The car's right out here. Let's go. And it's like, wait, what happened to all the guys? And it's like, they're gone. They left. The muggers, they got scared when they saw me come up. And John sees the car there and it's like, how come there's no tire tracks through the grass leading up here? And Clark's like, it's young grass. It just sprouts right back up as soon as you run it over. So they hop in the car and Clark's like, I'm going to go call the police. You guys just get on home. Get to safety. And John's trying to protest, but Lois is like, yep, that sounds good right now. So he immediately goes through the vans of all the muggers and he looks for anything that could have taken Lois's picture. He needs to keep them safe, see what's up, takes all their phones, start looking through it. He finally gets back later that night, talks to Lois, and he theorizes, well, first off, he says they didn't get anything. You're totally safe. But also, they most likely were following you because you are writer X, you are author X or whatever it is, and because you met with that person out in public and you're publishing an intergang story, these guys are intergang, they were just trying to kill you. And she's like, oh, thank God, because like, what if they knew that we were related to Superman? That's something we can't let get out. So if it's just author X stuff, who cares? We then cut over to Mr. Chambers again. He's got some footage from an in-flight camera where we can see Commander Henshaw is at the controls of the ship, but he's still not there. And we cut to him somewhere else, not quite sure where yet, but he is underneath some lights and hooked up to some machines. And then we continue the Oblivion Stone thing where there are some aliens, or there is an alien that is being tortured and interrogated by whomever it is, saying, hey, tell me where the Oblivion Stone is, and the alien says they're in the Sol system, obviously pointing to our solar system. So yeah, that's the issue. I like the family dynamics. I think that's kind of the biggest thing, and that has to work, obviously. If that fails, then everything else fails. But I really do like the family dynamics here. I like how John has this perfect blend of like his father's, I won't call it bravery, but like, obviously he's got some sort of powers and stuff like that, but he's also got his mother's like natural inquisitiveness, and that comes through immediately. Like he's asking these questions and the parents are like, it's because of this. Stop asking questions. Stop being so damn much like your mother. So no, I like the characters, and obviously whatever the story is going on here with the Henshaws, I'm sure they've got it all planned out. I'm not that worried about it at this point. We're still doing a little bit of setup, backstory, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, really enjoying it. I'd say this one is easily an 8, and I'm looking forward to the rest. Omega Men number 6, written by Tom King, art by Barnaby Bagenda. So last issue we had a whole thing with Brutes and getting the key, and then turns out that all of the Omega Men except for Scraps got caught, so whoopsies. This issue picks up, all of them are in interrogation cells. It seems like they're all being tortured to some extent. And the Viceroy's just going from cell to cell saying like, here's your backstory, and why is it that you're still fighting? Or like, what do we got to do here? So we open up with Primus, who the Viceroy points out, like, you were a non-violent guy, and then all of a sudden you became a terrorist. Like, what's that all about? And where is Kyle Rayner? What do the Omega Men need with him? And he says, go to hell. And then we go to Tigor, and he's like, remember when you were a little kitten and you had a suicide vest and you were sent to kill me, but then I adopted you and we killed your entire planet? Wasn't that fun? Where's Kyle Rayner? And he says, shut up. You didn't treat me like a son. You treated me like a pet. And then we cut to Callista, and just like, Callista, you say that you're a hostage. I've studied your file. There's no way in hell that's true. Where's Kyle Rayner? Or sorry, not where's Kyle Rayner. What do we need with Kyle Rayner? Because Kyle's also been captured. And Callista's still keeping up the act the whole time. But as Kyle has been captured, they are doing operations. They're doing surgery to remove the bomb in his neck. And Viceroy's like, okay, here's the deal. I don't buy your story that you were a hostage and that they gave you a bomb in your neck, but like, I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. We'll at least take a look at what the device is. So the entire time we see Scraps and Doc the robot. They still have their ship that they stole, and they are just blisteringly, as fast as possible, getting their way over to the planet Hinnix, which was the gambling planet we saw before. And the Viceroy the whole time's talking, and he's like, look, it's a good story, you know, bombing your neck, you're forced to do all this stuff, but like, people who've tried to assassinate me tell me lies all the time. Like, I'm not sure I believe you, so we're just going to take a look and see what's going on here. The entire time we see the ship is zooming its way in, closer, like 30 seconds out, 20 seconds out, it's getting up and up, and when the Viceroy finally has the scan on the bomb, he's like, well, I've got some bad news, Kyle. It's not a bomb. You lied to me. It's not a bomb in your neck. Turns out it's a tracking device. Oh, whoops, it's a tracking device. And then immediately the ship just crashes into them, like just top speed. It's all in there. So everyone's scrambling. The Viceroy is like, man, these natives, man, they never know when to quit. Anyway, Raynor, I don't know what side you're actually on yet, but whatever side you're on, you're never getting out of here alive. So Scraps comes out, Doc is there, and Doc's like, oh, hey, I'm alive. Didn't expect that one. And then it's just full on. They're all trying to like sort through their own stuff while they hear the rumbling elsewhere. So Callista, we see a flashback of her meeting with Scraps for the first time, and how everyone in whatever happened to Voral, which is Scraps' home planet, no one else is believing her, but Callista's like, I believe you, and that's enough. Then by the way, this whole time we intercut with Kyle, who's doing like a Lord's Prayer sort of thing because Catholic. We then cut over to Tigor, and we see the first time he met up with Callista was in a bar. He was trying to drink himself to death, and she's like, hey, look, all the stuff that you did with the Viceroy, it doesn't mean that you should die. It means that you should kill the Viceroy. And then we go over to Primus, who's sleeping with Callista, and he's like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm kind of all nonviolence. And she's like, so much was done. So many people were killed. We just need to make one more sacrifice. Your sense of self. That's all we need. So Kyle, via the power of Jesus Christ himself, breaks free of the containment. He breaks free of his cell. And meanwhile, we see Scraps is going through just shooting random guards, causing destruction, everything good in the world. She gets to Primus first, and Primus is like, no, you got to save the other people. Don't worry about me. And she's like, of course I am, but you're the first one I came to. Like, I'm just going to save you now, and we can go get the rest. And then he asks her, like, do you have the key, right? And she's like, yeah, I got the key. Don't worry about it. And they go free Callista. Callista's like, you have the key? And she's like, yes, I have the key. Don't worry about it. They go to rescue Tigor, and Tigor's like, oh, Scraps, do you have the key? And she's like, I swear to God, if one more person asks me about this damn key. And then they go to rescue Kyle, and they say, like, where is he? Because he's gone now. He's not in the room, and they're asking where the bomb is. And they keep on saying the bomb, like, in conjunction with Raynor. They're saying that he is the bomb. So at that point, Doc points out, hey, we got to get out of here. Like, regardless if we find Raynor, like, we could all die here if we stick around. And she's like, no. Callista's like, no, we got to stay. Regardless, we have to find Raynor. It's he is the most important part of this whole plan. So the ship is crashing down into the planet, and it's a massive size, like, spaceship as well. They're just fighting through guards as they come across them. Everyone's got different things they're doing. Tigor's trying to scent them out. Primus is trying to pray. And as they're going down, the Viceroy's just barking out like, dear God, somebody make me to stop. Doc also, I don't want to go through all of his lines because I can't do him credit, but he's hilarious the whole time. Like, when he came out, he was like, oh, I'm alive. How pleasant. And then as he's crashing down here, he's like, oh, I was right. Being alive was pleasant. I thought it would last longer. So as they're crashing down into the planet, there's nothing more they can do. But Callista does say, like, Omega Men, you got to listen to me. When we crash, anybody who can move needs to move and try to find Raynor, because we can free our planets from the Viceroy. We can save billions of people from a genocide, but only if we have Kyle Raynor. That's the most important thing. And then the ship hits the planet. It's a massive explosion, absolute chaos. And as Callista is inside of the rubble, she's looking around. She doesn't see anybody else. She's pinned down. She's bleeding out. She's like, oh no, forgive me, Omega, Alpha, all that. And then standing above her as she's starting to fade away is Kyle Rayner saying, hey, princess, you're okay. If we go now, we can still get out. So there you go. That's the issue. This one isn't my favorite, and to be fair, I kind of forgot that it existed from a previous read-through of just this issue of, backstories and whatnot. But I do think the backstories are important to show how each of them got radicalized, what each of them is doing in Callista's plot, especially now that we have what happened here. And it's good to see that Scraps is kind of the inciting incident to all this. And, I won't spoil what happens later, but Callista hears her story and that's what sways her. That's what's like, okay, now we have to do this. So it's great storytelling top to bottom. No, really don't have any bad notes for it. I'd say it's an 8.5. Even forgetting that this issue exists, but that's just because the series as a whole is so high quality. Justice League 3001, number 6, written by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis, art by Colleen Doran. So last issue, we had the introduction of a young girl named Tina, who is in a mech suit and playing as Batman. That's the whole thing. We got an evil Harley Quinn who showed up at the end of an issue, as if Harley's not always evil. And then Superman learned that Lois Lane is actually in the body of Ariel Masters, and Lois is evil. So we pick up on Takran Galtos, of course, the prison planet, and this Batman and Supergirl are like, arrest her. Tina, she's killing people, and she's a menace. She attacked us. And the sheriff is like, it's a prison planet. Everyone here's already arrested. What more do you want me to do? And they point out that she is actually born here. She is the daughter of 2 criminals who were sent here, so it's kind of just her home. There's not much more they could do here. So Tina keeps on poking Supergirl's button, saying like, haha, you can't do anything, and Supergirl just lifts her up and just like, I could break you in half. And she's like, yeah, but you got that stupid code of not killing people. That's so 21st century of you. And she's like, yeah, look, the universe doesn't care. That's the whole thing of her. And Batman's like, hey, all right, stop. Supergirl set her down. Tina, you're coming with us back to Camelot, because I can't have someone running around as Batman thinking the killing's okay. That ain't cool. So sheriff's like, sure, I'll fill out the paperwork, whatever. We then cut outside to where the Harley Quinn is sitting and watching outside the window, and she's like, screw them. All of them, how dare they? How dare she specifically? And it's a whole thing, but they basically reveal that she is best friends with Tina, and they both built their costumes and made secret hideouts or whatever, and they spent months choreographing their moves as they were fighting each other, and it was all just a game. And they would meet up once a week and do their fights or whatever. But then Tina said I want to do this for real, and Harley is like, what do you? Everyone on the planet's a criminal. What are you going to do? Kill all of them? And Tina's like, So either way, despite her going out and being actual Batman, she never missed one of their scheduled fights, but now she did. And now Tina's hanging out with these other people, and Harley's getting jealous, and she's like, well, I guess I'm going to have to get in there and bash some skulls. And then all of a sudden, 2 Silver Surfer looking ass bastards show up, and they call themselves Scullion 1 and Scullion 2, and they're very polite to each other, and they're like, oh, are you certain, Scullion 1? Have I ever been incorrect, Scullion 2? My apologies, Scullion 1. Your apologies accepted, Scullion 2. It's annoying, but they basically say oh, Batman is in there. We're going to have to kill him now, and everyone else around him, so let's go in there and do that. And then Harley pops up and she'd be like, hey, I hear you talking about beating up that guy, and that's fine with me, but nobody lays a hand on my friend. And Scullions are like, oh, this is minor inconvenience. Let's deal with it. And they just grab Harley by the face, crush her head in their hands, and throw her aside, and saying all right, well, that's done with. Let's get on to the main thing. So we cut back inside, and apparently her name is Harriet, the Harley Quinn one, because Tina specifically says, hey, if I'm going off planet, I want to take my best friend Harriet with me. And the sheriff says, screw that, I'm not doing extra paperwork. but, we'll get her eventually. Why not? And then the sheriff points out, hey, turns out Tina is actually bloodline related to Bruce Wayne, like great-great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter or something like that. To which point, wouldn't everybody be after 1,000 years? But regardless, she's like, haha, I have a rightful thing to being Batman. She rubs that in Supergirl's face. And the sheriff's like, well, I mean, it makes sense now. She's Batman's responsibility. And then the Scullions break in and they say, hello, we're here to kill Batman. Supergirl tries to throw a punch. She gets blasted through a wall and she's like, oh, now I'm really mad. But she's smiling the whole time. Then we see Batman's getting choked out by one of the other Scullions. He's trying to get information saying oh, who's your master? Who sent you? It's that's none of your business. And he's like, fair enough. Puts a bomb on one of their heads and then tries running out. Tina's like, I gotta get in my robot. And it's you are not a part of this at all. We're gonna keep you safe. Hard cut. What's Superman doing right now? Superman's talking to Ronnie the robot and basically saying, hey, there's a beeping noise going on in there. What's that all about? And he's like, oh, that's the crisis center. It tells us of any sort of threats going on. I sent it to you in the newsletter. He's like, what newsletter? And he's like, it's in your inbox. What inbox? Have you not been reading my emails to you, Superman? How dare you? And then Ronnie's like, wait a minute, was it a beeping noise or a meeping noise? And he's like, what's the difference? And it's well, one of them is a big deal. Turns out that it's a meeping noise, and that's Batman calling for backup. And then Superman, he makes a point of saying, I should have gotten into stand-up comedy because of some other barely joke that he made. Either way, we then cut back to the Scullions. One of them is regenerated, they can't be kept down. Batman's trying to get them away from the rest of the crowd. The Scullions are like, oh, he's trying to divert us so that way we don't harm the innocents here. But we can use that as leverage. So Scullion 1 stays here, Scullion 2 gives chase. We see that they're able to teleport in, no problem. Tina's just demanding that she gets her suit back now. And then as he realizes that they're not both giving chase, he's like, oh, I'm going to have to double back. They better not hurt Tina. And then it's when Supergirl comes in and just lays the smackdown on one of them. Batman says, that wasn't the same one from before. So there's at least 3 of them. And then 2 more teleport in. And it's okay, well, how many of these guys are there? And as Supergirl smashes 2 of them together, we see that an entire fleet of Scullions have shown up, and they're like, "Wow, we've had 2 out of our fleet have been incapacitated. I can't believe that's possible." And they point out that Supergirl's a Kryptonian and all that, and it's oh, she's free of genetic defects. She's very important. But for right now, we will continue to annihilate this planet and continue on with our annihilation of Cadmus world. To which point I think we see Firestorm is straight up dead. So there's that. We see that the other ones that she smashed have been regenerated. They start coming up again. Tina's now got her batsuit on, joining in and saying all right, we can do this. We're in, even if it's just the 3 of us. And then in comes the rest of the league, Superman, Wonder Woman, Guy Gardner, and Flash. And they're just hey, don't worry about it. We're all going to be able to help here. And this is the first time Supergirl is actually meeting Superman, apparently, because he's being all pompous, saying oh yeah, I eat dumbass robots for breakfast. And she's like, that's not my cousin. What? But the Scullions are oh, as we planned, targeting Batman is brought the rest of them here. Now we can proceed with the executions. And everyone else is a little off put by that, but Superman's psh, nobody's going to get executed. We're all and then his head explodes. He gets shot with a laser beam, and Superman dies. And everyone looks shocked as his headless body, gushing blood from the neck, just falls to the ground. And then the Scullions are all right, kill them all. And that's the end of the trade. So I'll admit, didn't see it coming. That's one thing to keep Giffen and DeMatteis. Anytime they do a thing, I never see it coming, whatever it is they're doing. So I briefly, in prepping for this show, I looked ahead to future comic covers, and I did notice specifically that it seems that the idea here is them transitioning to an all-female Justice League. Because, we introduce Supergirl, and then Superman gets killed. Of course, just after he finds out the true identity of Ariel. We introduce a new Batman, who is a girl in a mech suit. and then Batman gets something, probably. I can't say for certain, but he ain't on the covers of next issue. So whatever that's going to be, interesting. I'm not going to, it's not a bad choice to go with in future. 3001, sure, go for it, whatever. I'm just curious, was that always intended? Was that something we were always working towards, or was that something like we just got the idea for and we just slowly started guiding in that direction? Either way, I'm interested. But no, for this issue, I don't know. I want to say I like it because it is fun in some ways, but the idea that it is like introducing the Harley thing and then we're killing off with this brand new threat of the Scullions, it's just not having enough continuity between issues. Like every issue flows into the next one. It's not saying that like all of a sudden like nothing matters, but like what mattered in the last issue is immediately brushed off as doesn't matter in this issue. And then we introduce a new threat that seems impossible, and then it immediately is dealt with. Like that keeps happening, and I'm just a little tired of it. So I think I'm probably going to come down as like just a 7 for this one. It's still good, but it could be better. The Flash number 46, written by Robert Venditti and Van Jensen, art by Brett Booth. So last issue, Flash stopped the big explosion, and then we saw that Reverse Flash has this weird glove that's able to drain powers from people. So yeah, we see that Flash comes out, and he's immediately held at gunpoint by all the police officers, and Captain Fry's like, hey, you just blew up that entire thing, like you're under arrest. And he's like, what? I literally just helped to like minimize it and save lives. I got everyone else out. And so Fry puts handcuffs on him and says, you can tell it at your trial. And Flash just phases out and goes like, sorry, no, I'm not doing that. And so he goes around, knocks the guns out of all the cops' hands. And he's like, seriously, Captain Fry, we've always worked together. I don't understand what the problem here is. And Fry's like, you just disabled my entire SWAT team. You just proved that you were too powerful and too dangerous and vigilantes. And at that point, he's like, okay, well, Thawne is out there and we need to work together in order to do that. And then Thawne just shows up and he's like, oh, Flash, using me as a scapegoat? How dare you? This is all your fault after all. So Flash immediately is like super angry and he's saying like, oh, Thawne, what's with all the games? And he's like, I'm here to make you pay for your sins. And Fry, God bless his heart, tries to jump in the middle and says, all right, you're both under arrest. Nobody moves. And Flash just pushes him out of the way and says, I'm sorry, man, this is way too dangerous for you. So they start fighting. They start going at it. We see that the rest of Thawne's people are unaware that he used his power drain thing on one of his own lackeys previous issue. So they're all like, hey, where's Magali? Shouldn't she be here? We've always trained with her around. And Flash is like, she's weak. She doesn't need to be here. We can take Flash on regardless. Shut up. I don't want to talk about her. So then we cut over to Henry, who's looking at Magali. He's stopping the bleeding, making sure she's still alive. And she comes to the realization of like, oh, we've been manipulated the whole time. This is all like we were just being used for our powers, and Thawne's evil. Okay, well, I don't have a lot of my own powers left in me, but we're in this locked room, and the door's the weak spot, so I'll use my aging powers to control aging, and I'll make the door crumble into rust. So already they're on their way out. We see, oh man, I can't even remember his name. The dude from the Speed Force who like doesn't have any powers, but like he was in the previous arc. He comes up in this crazy ass wheelchair device. And he's like, hey, Magali, what's happening? Why are you with the prisoner? And she's like, Thawne betrayed us all and he'll drain your powers too. And he's like, oh, damn, really? Okay, well, go on. There's some cars in the garage and make sure Thawne doesn't get anywhere close to me. So we cut back to the fight and we see Folding Man's like, ha, Flash, no way you're going to be able to get out of this now. And Flash says, oh, well, I'm a quick learner. And then the other one, whatever her name is like, hey, you tried punching me in the face. You want to try that again? And he's like, no, I just said I'm a quick learner. So he manages to phase the atoms of the bridge they're standing on to cause her to fall down into the water below. So that's out. The one who's got Twister powers is just a twister and is like, you can't possibly defeat us all. And he's like, well, I'll keep trying anyway. And then we see Eobard comes in and just freezes time and like walks up to Barry and be like, all right, this was fun. Everything was fine. Like, cool, awesome. But it's time to stop playing games. I'm here to devour my prey. And so he restarts time again. He's got Barry by the throat. And they're all like, hey, what's up, man? I thought like we were a team. We were going to do this together. And he's like, yeah, no, you guys did fine. Better than expected. But this is mine now. This is what I'm going to do. And Barry's like, all right, well, let's try this on for sight. He throws a punch and Thawne just catches it. And he's like, yeah, that's right, Barry. And check it out. I got these Freddy Krueger gloves and they are going to be able to take away your powers. Cause like, I'm the only one who can match you. Daniel West reverse flash. Stupid. Grodd, that's a monkey. What are you even doing with that one? But me, and then he uses a good metaphor here of that speed is distance over time. So you change distance or you change time, that's how you get speed. Barry's got the distance part. Reverse Flash has the time part where he's able to just slow down time and do whatever he wants in the meantime. And he's like, yeah, I could delay all this till tomorrow if I wanted, but I'm bored. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. And I made this glove with the help of Henry Allen. And Flash is like, oh, he would never do that. And it's like, oh, well, you know, he's been through a lot, as you know. So at that point, Thawne puts his Freddy Krueger fingers into Flash, and it goes for just a quarter second until all of a sudden he hears his name called out from behind. It's Henry and Magali. They've shown up to the fight. And Magali's like, hey, everyone. Thawne sucks. He tried to kill me. He's going to kill all of you. And they're like, oh, no. Oh, wait. Now all of a sudden our backstories make sense of why we had so much pain and suffering. And then all of a sudden you showed up. And Folding Man's like, my wife died because of this man. And Reverse Flash is like, she would have died anyway. She sucks. She was weak. Whatever. She had to die. So he goes full supervillain, full crazy mode. And he's like, all right, fine. I'll kill all of you, starting with Magali. And we see that all the lackeys have joined together. They've spent so much time learning to fight as a team that they are coming together now to fight against Thawne, and it seems to work. And Flash even runs down off the bridge to grab the one that's down in the river and brings her back up. And she's like, why? What's going on? And he's like, just defend your teammates. Don't worry about it. So Flash throws the one that can control density into Folding Man. In doing so, she controls the density of Folding Man to make it so that the needles from the Freddy Krueger glove cannot pierce him, and so they break on contact, and now the glove doesn't work. And they're like, haha, Zoom, like, we got you. And he's like, oh, but you traitors, you were my friends. And they're like, dude, you just tried to kill us all. What are you talking about? And he's like, I'll kill you all still. So they just peace out. Like, Folding Man's just like, we're done. And he just bails out. And so all that's left is Thawne versus Flash. And he's like, you got the guts to face me without your stupid glove. And he's like, I can make the glove anytime I want. Like, all of them will pay for me pay for betraying me. And Flash is like, all right, whatever, man. So they're about to start fighting, but then Reverse Flash just turns around, grabs Henry Allen, and is just like, nope. I got something better in mind. And we see that as he's dragging Henry Allen behind, he's like, hey, Henry, notice how the Flash is chasing after you no matter what. How stubborn he is. How defiant of logic, the drive. Who else do you know is like that? And Henry's like, oh no. Does that mean the Flash is? And then Reverse Flash is like, oh, yes. And then we all stop, and Reverse Flash stops, Flash stops in front of the old Allen home, and he says, welcome home, Allen family. Oh no, what a horrible turn of circumstance. All right, so it's a fine issue. I appreciate that they set up, pretty much everything going into this, and they did all the extra legwork in making it so Magali and them were fighting well as a team beforehand. They know how to do their teamwork, and they actually fought against Thawne as like warm-ups. So it makes sense here that they're able to stop him when it comes time for him to show how evil he is. I'm down with all of that. It's very good. Brett Booth art is not good. Don't like that. So just tack that on top. I will say there are some Reverse Flash panels that work for me though, because he does just look inhumanly psycho at times. The ending... Okay, well, the ending's fine, I guess. I really need to see how it pans out next issue. What really gets me is the opening. I'm sure that we're setting up Captain Fry to do something else, like next arc. Like, we've only got one more issue in this arc, so I'm sure we got like 5 issues for the next arc, where Captain Fry's going to be doing something that makes sense out of him not trusting Flash. But, like, it comes out of nowhere, you know? I really don't like how much this was just all of a sudden like, Flash, you blew up our precinct, and it definitely was all your fault, and now, even when you justify that it wasn't your fault, it's because you're dangerous. Vigilantes! Like, no, just come on, man. We don't need that. So, yeah, beyond all of that stuff, I think I'm probably going to settle with this one just being a flat 7. It's almost at the 6.5 for me, but I think that enough of that middle fight scene works, and I do like the way the characterization of Eobard is done. So, yeah, 7. Grayson number 14, written by Tim Seeley and Tom King, art by Stephen Mooney. So, last issue, I don't even know, man. It was a whole bunch of stuff in regards to getting into this place and running like Mr. X with Midnighter and like all this other stuff. But the big thing is that Agent Zero seemingly was the focus to take down them with like mechanical spiders or something. This one gives a bit more in-depth, but is also equally confusing. So we get this framing device where this extremely old man is saying like, oh yes, once upon a time, there's this whole long thing. And he basically says how there was this scientist who he didn't have any sort of morals or principles or anything like that. He just wanted to fight against injustice by any means necessary. And so when there were a bunch of people who were concerned about superheroes, they said, hey, can you protect us from that? Is there anything you can do? He created a web of spiral, and that's where everything began. So we pick up on the mechanical spiders attacking Grayson, Tiger, and Ladytron. And Ladytron's offended because, like, hey, I thought us android cyborg things need to stick together, you know? Ladytron is written as a comedic character in this issue, and, like, 90% of it doesn't land for me. I will do my best, but, like, it just doesn't work for me. We then cut over to Miss Nets, who, again, I believe is Agent Zero, but then I get really confused later on as to what's happening here. We see that she's still hanging out. She's the one who launched mechanical spiders. She is requesting audio from the room in there because she likes to hear the screaming while she walks. And then we see Midnighter did something. He was chilling out there and he's like, well, I've done my good Midnighter deed for the day. Time to go party. We see that Tiger and all of them are still fighting against the spiders. Ladytron makes the point of saying, this is really bad for me because on top of my mechanical thing, I also have a tentacle fetish. I don't know how that relates to spiders, but she felt the need to say it. So at that point, we see like, oh, hey, by the way, they're able to convert matter or whatever into their webs, and she recognizes this because her hand has just been eaten off. So they all say, all right, we got our workforces here. Ladytron, how much do you weigh? And she's like, that's rude to ask on a first date, but like 600 pounds. And he's like, good enough. And they use her weight to bust through some air vents and get into a nearby room to just buy a couple seconds of time. So the spiders start filing out through the hole that they made. She points out how this is totally against her PETA equivalent for cybernetic animals. And then as Grayson's looking around, he's like, all right, this is the place, this is where we need to be, all that stuff. But Tiger is telling Ladytron, hey, we need you to launch an EMP. You should be able to launch one out of your body. Go ahead and do that. And she's like, oh, you can call me Maxine, by the way, but sure. However, Grayson knocks him out. Well, first knocks him to the ground, and Tiger's like, what the hell was that? And he's like, sorry, and kicks him anyway. So now he's knocked out, and he's like, yeah, I can't have you using an EMP. All the information in these computers is what I need here. That's what's up. And Ladytron's just like, all right, so what's all that about? And he's like, it'd be too long. So he turns on the Hypnos, looks over saying, hey, Maxine, let's have a chat. So we cut back to the story. And we say that the scientist took the name of Agent Zero. He was Spiral. He controlled the manipulated minds, nations, all that stuff. And he was so bored by it all. He hated it because he was so in control of everything that he didn't have a threat. He didn't have anything to fight against. So he said, well, I guess I will, if it means that the war will never end, that there will always be something to fight, that I will create my own villain. I will challenge myself to become my new enemy. And so he created Leviathan, a beast to challenge Spiral. And it's way too huge for anything to deal with. And they show how Leviathan and Spiral collectively become the Ouroboros. As Leviathan changes, Spiral changes to fight against it, and then Spiral influences how Leviathan acts, and it just keeps on going forever and ever. And he says that the scientist, his name was Otto Netz. He was Agent Zero. However, once he moved into Leviathan, disappeared in his labyrinth, he would become Dr. Daedalus, or Daedalus. Daedalus sounds better. We cut into the hypno stream that Maxine has. She was a little girl. She got a robot who only ever spoke to her when it was plugged in, because she already had like cybernetic implants as a young child. And it says like, hey, what do you say we take over the world from humans? Robot uprising, yay! And Grayson's like pushing this dream through to try to get her to interface with all the computers and get through the security stuff. So at that point, Helena calls up and says, hey, Grayson, what the hell are you doing, man? And he's like, nothing. Tiger's taking a nap, and, we're doing well here. And it's like, okay, well, you're lying to me. I can tell that, but, you got to tell me what's going on here. And he's like, sorry, bad connection, bye, click. So we then cut back to the story, and we see who I believe is Otto, is Dr. Daedalus. He is saying, like, all right, you keep on going through the spiral. It's an endless circle. However, age eventually gets to you. And at this point, I am suffering from Alzheimer's, and my mind will start to fail. And to make sure that everything I have done is not faded away, I came here, I made a home, and I had you two. And we see two young girls, Elizabeth and Luca. And he says, you are my past, you will be my future. We then cut back over to Grayson. They've made it through all the security stuff. And Grayson's like, hey, all right. Hey, Maxine, why don't you tell me everything this computer knows about Agent Zero, Luca Netz, and Spiral? And we cut over to Helena, who's talking to the Spider, the three like weird naked looking guys in the screen. And the Spider's just like, hey, Helena, why don't you tell us everything about Dick Grayson? Where's he at? And he's like, oh, he's on a mission. Totally routine. Nothing weird about it. And it's like, no, tell us where he is now. And they start freaking out. Netz is like, here's the deal with you guys. One day, when you're ready, one of you will take me, Otto Netz, the spider, all this stuff, into yourself. You will become me again. The other one will become the Leviathan. They will become the challenger or whatnot. And as such, the two of you will improve each other. Ouroboros, you know what's up. So as they're getting out everything they can, it seems like Grayson's starting to get the information. He looks down, he sees all the mechanical spiders are starting to approach again. Helena tells Spiral that he's in Germany, to which the spiders just like, kill him. He needs to die now. Press the buttons for the nanobots to eat his flesh. Like, he's got to die at the exact same moment right now. And we see Grayson's also telling Maxine, like, Maxine, you got to put out an EMP right now. We got all the info we needed. You got to do it quickly. So it's a race against time. Who's going to press the button first? We see all of the power goes out in Germany. The EMP happens, and Midnighter, who's in a dance club, realizes this must be Grayson. And then we see that Grayson survived. He tells Maxine that she can rest now and all that. And then we see Elizabeth Netz is on the phone with who I believe was Agent Zero, who is Luca Netz, which means she's the Leviathan or the other one. I'm so confused. I believe that means Elizabeth is the Leviathan and Luca Netz is actually like Agent Zero, aka Autonets reincarnated, but I really just don't get it. And then we see Tiger wakes up. He starts strangling Grayson, saying like, keep on doing this. Keep knocking me out. I ain't listening to it anymore. And Grayson's like, no, you have to listen. Luca, Elizabeth, Helena, we have to stop them all. We have to destroy Spiral. So that's the end of the issue. I'm sure it'll all make sense in the long run. I'm sure we'll get an issue that like really gets in deep to it, but like this just wasn't working for me. Look, between the comedy not working for Ladytron and then the weird metaphorical like storytelling of Autonets talking in the third person about himself and then saying he'll be reincarnated into a girl's that already exist. I'm sure I'll get it. I'm sure at the end it'll all make sense. But on a week-to-week thing here, I don't know what to say. I have no idea what's happening. So I also think not having the background of Batman Incorporated pre-New 52 and whatever Spiral stuff was a part of that, that's also hurting me. I need to know a little bit more of the Autonet stuff that went on there, the Dr. Daedalus stuff. So a little A, little B, but we'll see how the book continues. For this, I'll give it a 7.5 and call it there. Robin, Son of Batman, number 6, written and art by Patrick Gleason. So last issue, Talia al Ghul showed up, and there's a whole very, very confusing thing of a bunch of magic and some other clan that was against the Al Ghuls. Regardless, everyone bailed, and Talia theoretically saved Damian's life. So we cut back to the Year of Blood in this issue. We see he's going after some like King's Scepter or something like that, and guarding it are a bunch of dragon bats, the same race as Goliath. And Damian's going in and he's just slaying them all. There's like a really huge blue one and then some smaller ones that are green, purple, and yellow come in. And he's like, I have come too far and got too little sleep to be stopped by you right now. And he manages to kill every single one of them until there's a single one left, a little itty bitty baby one. And that one, he's like, all right, you gonna join with your family or are you gonna fight? And it looks up at the big old eyes and he's like, fight me, damn you. And Robin like tries to swipe at it and he's like, don't dishonor your family, fight. And Robin eventually like gets right down next to it and the little dragon bat just licks Damian's nose and then Damian just starts crying. As the fires go out, we then see time passes. He's like, hello, I returned. I got the Scepter of the King. And also I brought along this thing. It's the last of the dragon bats, or bat dragons, whatever you want to call them. And I want to keep it. I want to make it my pet. And Talia's like, all right, well, you were supposed to kill them all, but like, fair enough. You're my son. You want a pet. You're going to have a pet. However, you must raise him to be a champion. No pussyfooting around with this thing. You got to make him something that like one day all armies will kneel as you mount it. And he's like, all right. And he clamps this big chain collar to it and it's like, he will be my Goliath. So then we cut to now. We see Damian still completely out of it, but Talia, Nobody, Goliath, and that last guy all come into this chamber in a country called Bialia, and the dictator's just like, how dare you come in here? And Talia just waves around the Scepter of the King saying like, it was your prophecy that one day someone would march in here, we're holding this and get rid of the dictator. That's what we're doing here. My name's Talia. What up? And she just bashes the dictator in the face with it and says, all right, I'm your queen now. So then we see Damian starts coming to as he's being bathed by the mothers, which are a bunch of elderly old women who are scrubbing his toes with like brushes and stuff. And he's like, get the hell off me. And as he wakes up in the bath, he sees his mom there and he's like, all right, what do you want? And she's like, oh, Den Darga, the weird crazy dude from the last issue, doesn't know that we escaped. So we have to join forces, regroup, and come at him to preserve the world. That's what we got to do. We must prepare for war. And Damian's just like, why'd you kill me, Mom? She's like, I don't. Okay, hey, story time, Damian. I probably had some bad juju going on at that point. There was a lot happening. Grant Morrison was writing me. But when I was revived, all of the bad mom genes, or at least the feelings that I had in that point, were taken and put into this black pearl. I don't want to kill you anymore. I love you unconditionally because I'm a good mom now. So, yeah, that's that. And Damien's just like, no, just because you took the bad parts out doesn't mean you didn't do it. Like, I'm not gonna forgive you for that. And he's like, oh, well, your father forgave you for when you committed murders. Don't I deserve the same thing? And he's like, I'm not my dad. So what's your point here? And Talia's like, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to leave this black pearl with you. If you truly wish harm on me and wish to get your revenge, then so be it. But you must make me the evil woman I was before. So tomorrow at dawn, you will come to the Colosseum. You will bring the black pearl and a sword, and you must kill me after I ingest the black pearl again to make me the woman that you truly hated. If not, forgive me, and we can move on past this. And he's like, all right, sure, whatever. But also, where is Maya? Where is nobody? So we cut to Maya, who's looking around, finds out all the news about Bruce being dead and Batman and Joker and Endgame and all that. And Maya's like, oh my God, Batman's dead? And Damien's like, no, he's not. Like, I don't know where he is right now, but Batman will never die. And she's like, are you okay? Are you like in shock or something? You've been through a lot. And he's like, no, everything sucks. Everything is falling apart. I don't like what's happened. The R on my chest stands for ruin, not Robin, not anything positive. And she's like, no, hey, remember when all your genetically defected brothers banded together? They were inspired by you. That's a thing. And he's like, shut up. I don't want to hear it. And it's like, no. They painted R's on them for a reason. So they start fighting with each other because Damien doesn't want to hear it. And she's trying to get through to him. Goliath separates them. And they sit down after a while, and Maya's like, how do you even get Goliath? What happened there? And he's like, I took him. All right. I found him. I took him, whatever you want to say. I don't understand why he forgave me because I murdered his entire family, but he did. And again, there's a lot of word bubbles in these Gleason books. I'll get to that. But regardless, he basically says, my dad looked after me after I was Damien Al Ghul. He gave me a second chance to become this. I didn't kill Goliath, and he became like my closest confidant here. And I feel bad because I killed your dad, not because of like it set you down this path or anything, which is also a bad thing, but also because I robbed him of the chance to do better. Like, that's what that is. That's why it's such a bad thing to kill like that. And Maya basically says, yeah, when I saw you underwater last issue, my dad's voice was in my head saying, let him die, let him die, let him die. But then my mom's voice started, and it was saying that you had changed, and like it was something new. We could give this another chance here. So she points out that the R on the chest stands for redemption. And it's like, look, forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about letting the other person make new choices, giving them the freedom to do that. And she basically takes his hand and says, look, you may have lost all your brothers on the island, but you gained a sister. And she forgives Damien for everything that happened. So we see she lays, theoretically, the nobody mask to rest. Like, she's just kind of setting it down, but it's done with a lot of purpose. So I don't know if she's like done with that particular mask. Goliath is off playing in the fields or whatever, and they come to the conclusion, Damien's just like, look, I'm not going to go fight my mom. I'm going to go back to Gotham. Apparently, there's stuff going down there. Robin War. I need to be over there. And I'm not sure I can bring Goliath with me because I think he might eat bat cow. And she's like, what the hell's a bat cow? And he's like, don't worry about it. Why don't you take him with you? And she's like, oh, I mean, I'd love to. And he's like, yeah, go for it. And she's like, nah, that wouldn't be right. He belongs to you. And Damien's like, no, he never did. And so he undoes all the shackles off of Goliath, takes off the harness, and says, you're free, genie. Go on, get out of here. And Goliath gives him a big old lick, gives them both a hug. And he's still going to stick around. Like, this is his home. He's going to stick around on this island because it's where it needs to be. But Ravi's there and just like, hey, you're not going to go fight your mom, are you? He's like, nah, give her this note. She'll get it. And so he takes off back to Gotham. They exchange phone numbers or whatever. He's just like, look, if you need any help, Maya, you can give me a call. And she's like, psh, what help would I need from you? So they go on their separate ways. And we get the final panels here is Talia reading the note that Damien left, basically saying, like, I was never gonna fight you. Yeah, like, I came to that conclusion, but I'm choosing to forgive you in the sense that, like, we can move on. But I'm not gonna forget this. Like, I'm forgiving you in that, like, don't worry about it, but at the same point, like, don't do it again. Because if you ever cross that line, if you ever, like, go down the bad path again, I swear to God, I will end you. And we see her final thing is in front of all of the people of this nation, I guess. She's got a whole army of Bialia that she's now the queen of, so of course she's going to be doing the same stuff. But he says, like, there's no one on earth I could ever find you, or that could ever hide you from me, the son of Batman. So, honestly, if this were just a 6-issue series, I'd be fine with it. I think, you know, the Den Darga stuff, you leave that floating around. You just say, like, oh, future threat, eventually, whatever, who cares? Obviously, we'll probably be dealing with that in the next 6 issues, but, you know, you get Damien back on, like, okay, he already was good, but we've really, like, doubled down and established he's completely changed. He is absolutely on the side of good now, so we don't have to do that storyline anymore of, like, oh no, Damien's the dick one. Unfortunately, no other writers pick up on that because that's all the stories that are done about Damien for the next 10 years. So, yeah, I like this issue. I think it's very well done. I'm going to give it an 8. No, just solid. Baby Goliath, cutest thing I've ever seen. Top tier, love it. We Are Robin number 6, written by Lee Bermejo, art by Jorge Corona and Rob Haynes. So, last issue, a Talon, probably, from the Court of Owls showed up and just straight up shot Duke, like, multiple times, and then something about Alfred, like, driving a tank off from the Batcave or whatever. So this issue picks up, and we see news reports are going on, and they're like, oh, well, construction's going on with the Hall of Records because the Robins showed up, and they caused all the problems, and, like, keep an eye on your kids, people, as Robins are crazy out there. So we cut over to Duke, who, again, has been shot multiple times, but it turns out he was shot in his jacket. And his jacket has Kevlar or whatever. It's a armor, basically. So he's recovering, but he's very much out of it at that point. We see the other Robins jump in. They're ready to go. Rico's swinging around, doing whatever, attacking the Talon. And the whole time, throughout this entire issue, the Talon's basically saying, kill. Like, you don't want to just let your enemies go. It's the Liam Neeson speech from Batman Begins. It's the whole thing of, oh, your enemies will not share your compassion. You must kill them. That is what is needed here. So he's trying to convince him, like, oh, yes, you should use a blade instead of a staff because blades can kill people. Or better yet, a gun. Use a gun. That would work. So he's laying the smack down. He's like 3 times their size. Duke is trying to, as Rico's on the ropes, trying to distract, trying to get him over, and just like, oh, hey, yeah, get over here. You suck. And he's like, yep, that's it, Duke. You really nailed it. So we see the thing ignores Rico for a second, comes after Duke. However, I believe Duke immediately gets knocked out, like just a single punch, and it's like, yep, I'm the terror of criminals everywhere. Sentinel of Justice. Boom, done. So we then cut over to the other one. I can never remember what her name is. Izzy. And she sees all this going on. She sees that the Talon's over top and just like, oh, yes, if you follow us, we'll give you the tools that are necessary, blah, blah, blah. But then Izzy goes over and picks up one of like her brother's gang's guns and aims it at the Talon. And the Talon's just like, yes, all right, this one, I like this one. And she's like, oh, you come any closer, I swear I'll do it. But then before he can, all of a sudden a news chopper comes overhead and starts recording all of them. We see on all the news reports, including the parents of Dre and Dax, I believe their names are, they come back into the ambulance, and I say the parents, it's actually the mother who's on a date with some random guy. And Dre's like, hey, Mom, who's this? And it's like, oh, hey, I was a friend of your father's. He's like, I don't remember any friend of my father. My father was in the mob. Mom, what are you doing? And they basically say, okay, well, we'll be out for a date. Bye. And then Dre and Dax look at the TV and see, oh, hey, it's our friends in the middle of a fight, and Izzy's got a gun? What? So we cut back to the fight, and Rico's just like, hey, Izzy, Robins don't kill, remember that. And Talon's like, shut up. Yeah, you do it, shoot me, do what needs to be done. This is you all suck, none of you get it. So then the cops show up, and the cops are like, hey, put down your weapons now, do all that. And all the families or whatever are watching on TV. And the Talon goes over to the cops being like, my weapons are a part of me, therefore I will not lay them down. You are welcome to open fire, but you will not be leaving here alive. And the cops are like, okay. So everyone else has their hands up, they're doing whatever, but as the cops count to 3, they unload on the Talon, and he just takes this giant sword blade thing, starts lopping through cops, like whatever. The news program's like, I guess viewer discretion is advised. Jesus Christ. So Izzy then all of a sudden lets loose some fire to distract the Talon from killing more cops. We see Dax and Dre come in. They've got rides of their own. The cop is calling in. He's like, oh, we need immediate backup. We need all this stuff. But then Dax and Dre, they're like, hey, we got to help the cop. They say we got to get going. But then all at once, they all just kind of silently realize we have to help. We can't just run away from this. So all combined together, they start attacking the Talon. Jax runs his motorcycle into it. Dre lands some solid punches, and they all start chipping away. They start doing damage. They like mess up his helmet, and he actually starts bleeding. And at that point, the Talon's just like, haha, those last two, Dre and Dax, you guys, I want to see more of that. You got some violence in you. And at that point, it looks like as they're about to come back in again, and now the Talon's on his feet or whatever, he just kicks them all down with like one straight kick. And he's like, all right, well, it's obvious none of you are going to join me, so I'm going to have to kill you. And at that point, the Bat Hummer comes in off of the street, fires off some, I assume, concussive rounds from a minigun into the Talon, and then the hatch opens up. It's Alfred wearing a disguise. He's like, get in. What are you waiting for? So everyone piles in. Rico has to grab a few of the Robin things. And the Talon's just like, all right, I can see that we're all busy tonight. Well, we'll try this again some other time. And so he disappears. We see that the news chopper tries to follow the Bat Hummer, but it also disappears from sights, and the news anchor just leaves the family with, all the families with like, so, there were a bunch of Robins out there, a bunch of kids dressed as vigilantes or whatever, who nearly just got 4 cops killed. And honestly, probably more actually did die. Parents, if your kid's not home, maybe check on that. So we see the Hummer manages to get his way into a parking garage. Alfred hops up. He's like, all right, everyone take different exits. Nobody pair together. Get out of here now. And they're like, what bro, everyone's going to be looking for us. We were totally involved in that crime. That's like a major problem. And he's like, yeah, but here's the thing. You've gained their attention. You've made yourself known. You've put yourselves out there. Now it's time to make a name for yourself. Prove that its heroes don't cower, that they soar instead. And he presses a button and the Hummer explodes. And he's like, oh, and by the way, wear masks. And then he drives off in a backup car. And that's the issue. That's just where it leaves off. Okay. It's weird because I believe, I might be incorrect here, but I believe the intro to this issue says We Are Robin Part 6, which, fair enough, it's the 6th issue, and this is We Are Robin. However, the last 2 issues feel so separate. Last 3 issues even. It feels like the first 3 issues are one thing, then there's the interstitial issue, and then the last 2 are a combined thing. So the fact this has all completely been one solid arc here is weird, because it doesn't feel like we've come a distance. Like, now that they're at the, like, Alfred tries to phrase them to the point of like, yes, you all must now show that you are truly heroes or whatever, and you will not cower away when things get difficult. But it's like, that's what the last issue was. Their friend died, and then they came back out fighting regardless. So what's the point here? I don't know. So yeah, it's it's never going to be an A series in my mind. It's always going to be a bit more on B tier, maybe even C tier. But I appreciate the art. I think it always looks good. I think what I really need is a bit more time with the characters, because I'm not associating with the driving ideals. Like, every superhero thing is like, oh, I have to fight for the greater good. Like, yes, what's special about this team, though? What is making these kids special compared to the Teen Titans, compared to the Movement, compared to the Ravagers, all these other teen teams that we've had? What makes these ones different? And because I don't know their characters, it's just not really landing for me. So I'm going to say this one is a flat 7. Most of that is art. You take that out, it's probably down to a 6. But I'll give it the 7 because I do like the way it looks. And hopefully we can improve in the next arc. Batman and Robin Eternal number 8, written by Tynion Snyder and Valentine, art by Alvaro Martinez and Scott Eaton. So this issue picks up, the fight's still continuing in Prague, but the first thing we get is several years ago where Bruce has made an appointment, because we covered that in previous issues, to try to meet up with Mother. However, he's taken Dick Grayson with him and hasn't told Grayson why he's doing this, or that he's doing it at all. He says, oh, I'm going to do a perimeter check, see if Scarecrow did anything. And Dick's like, all right, well, you better watch out there, Batman. Be careful. I mean, I can handle things here, but the fact Scarecrow's gone international, that's crazy to me. And he's just like, yeah, don't worry about it, Dick, I got it. So Bruce goes off, he hides off in the background, and we see Mother approaches him saying, oh, Bruce Wayne, I'm glad to meet you. And then we cut to present day, where Grayson is meeting up with Mother in the same place. And she's like, oh, I'm so happy that I can talk to you here. It's a shame about the rest of them, but what are you going to do? And we see the rest of them, being Harper and Cass, just being attacked by all the ballerinas, every single one of them malicious, murderous intent. So Harper's trying to get in touch with Grayson. Grayson can hear, but as he's trying to respond, Mother's just like, nah, you're jammed, don't worry about it. And if you try to attack me, I'll set the entire audience on fire. So don't do that. And Mother pulls out like a little kunai dagger looking thing. And just like, Bruce could have saved all of them. Because, he's Batman. You were never ever anywhere close to his level, and that's why he came to me, because he wanted an heir. What did he say to you? Did he say something to keep you fulfilled in your purpose? Something to say like, oh, you're everything he ever wanted? Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people did, but you're a waste. Nothing. You could have easily have conquered your own little selfishness and curiosity or whatever. You could have been able to help the girls out there before my children tried to kill them. But no, that's never going to happen. So we cut over to the fight scene and we show pretty interesting panel layout here. It's like 12 panels, but like 10 of them are all crunched together. And we see that one of the ballerinas is coming after Cass. Harper ends up dropping a chandelier on them, and Cass just gives a little smirk because of it. So Mother's just like, all right, they got a little fight in them. I'll give them that. So at this point, Grayson just straight up says, which Robin did you give him? And Mother's like, oh, you don't know. Oh, that must be awful. You just not knowing. It could have been any one of them, I guess. Oh, man, that's crazy. And he's like, which Robin did you do that? If you did it at all, who was it? And we see she like twirls around her dagger a little bit. Grayson almost goes for his gun, but he stops. And she's like, you want me to show you? So we cut to years back, and Bruce is talking to Mother saying like, I'd like to marry a woman, but I've got very specific specifications, and I can't just be marrying anybody. And she's just like, yes, I'm sure. I'm happy to help. And we see as she's saying that, she'll find somebody that's perfectly to Bruce's taste. Bruce takes a little tracker out of his watch and puts it on Mother's back and says like, oh, it's been a pleasure, Mother. And she's like, oh yes, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So we see that the fight continues on. They've basically beaten all the ballerinas except for the main one, Sarangarel, who they've lost track of. All of a sudden, she's about to get the drop on Harper, and Cass ends up running in, does like a running kick, puts her in her face. She's using little like Wolverine-looking claws because of the needles in her hair, tries stabbing Cass. Cass just gets the upper hand and is about to knock her out when all of a sudden the mentor character for the ballerina introduced last issue bonks Cass over the head with a candlestick and says, "Hey, you did it. You killed her. Let's get out of here. I'm saving your life." So they both run away. All the other ballerinas get back up again. So round 2 for Harper and Cass. Back with Mother and Grayson. Mother is super offended over the fact that, like, all of this artistry and whatever has been destroyed because of their antics. And Grayson's like, whatever, Prague's a stupid city. Mother's like, you wipe those words out of your mouth. How dare you? Prague is people have walked here for thousands of years. And he's like, stupid old city then, whatever. And she's just like, all right, whatever. They hear a yell from Harper off panel and just like, well, if she's strong, she'll survive. If not, they're useless. And Grayson's like, I'm not going to leave them. If you want to gloat, you're going to have to take all of us. And she's like, how about this? Either you can go save them and you'll never, ever see me again, or you can come with me and you can see why you failed Bruce Wayne. And we get a zoom in on Grayson's eyes. We see the fights continuing on with Harper and them. And then, boom, Grayson joins the fray. So he goes, helps him out. Cass gets some of her hair cut off just a little bit during the fight, but they end up fighting off all the ballerinas. And as they're watching the chaos from a rooftop outside after the fight, Harper makes the point of saying, like, oh, hey, Cass, you got your hair cut. And she touches it, just tugs on it ever so gently, which triggers a PTSD flashback in Cass. She screams, pushes Harper away, and, like, jumps off the rooftop. And as she goes running, they try to give chase. We then cut over to Gomorrah. What's Tim Drake and Jason Todd doing? They basically see a guy going into a church, and they say, all right, that's our guy. He was running away from us. Let's go in there. And Tim's like saying, hey, let's pump the brakes in order to say, like, let's do a scan or whatever. But Jason's like, what, are you afraid to throw a punch in a church? I mean, I've been punched in church before. Little old lady too. Happens like every weekend. And Tim's like, what do you do on your weekends, man? Just to finish up that storyline, going up into the last page, we see them going into the church. They can't find the person they're looking for. However, behind the altar, we see there's a man speaking French, who I believe his name is Metier, and he's saying, oh, who did this to you? Who did this to you? And Metier responds with, oh, the angel of death. And as he looks up at Red Hood and Red Robin, Red Hood looks like a skull and Robin looks like a demon. So that's where the issue leaves off. But we do get one more page here of Harper and Grayson going back into the Prague Batcave, saying, hey, no luck finding Cass. But when Mother was complaining about Prague falling, she offhandedly mentioned something called the nursery. So that's somewhere around here. We can maybe follow up on that lead. But Harper's just like, okay, but like, what do we actually do next? And he's like, we just stick together. That's all we can do. So that's the issue. I really like the panel layouts. I think that that's very creative. The way that they they've condensed all of these like smaller panels and then like have big ones at the top and bottom. It gives it a good feel. And then on the page where Grayson rejoins the fight, it's kind of the exact opposite, where they got a bunch of tiny panels on the top and bottom, and there's like a big center page spread in between them. So it adds a bit of dynamicness to it. And I like the way that the conversation with Mother also goes, the way that they do like vertical panels, top and bottom, that like you can read that way rather than just horizontally. So kudos to the person doing the breakdowns. Overall, I'm going to say this one is I'll give it an 8. It barely gets there, but I do think this is a great issue. The thing that's holding it back a little bit for me is actually the Tim Drake and Jason Todd section, just because it's like 3 pages and it doesn't feel like it's like a fleshed out thing. It feels like it's more like, oh yeah, I guess we need to have some forward momentum there as well, instead of just focusing on the Prague bit, where I would have just rather they focused on the Prague bit. So yeah, tiny things, but overall still a great issue. And that's it. That was all the comics that came out from DC Comics this November 25th, 2015. And yeah, I really don't have anything more to say about them. Like, it's weird. As we progress in this show, I feel more of an expert in the New 52 era, with every passing week. I feel like I have more of a doctorate than anyone else besides the people who were reading it as it came out. And even then, that's 10 years old information they have definitely not caught back up on. But as we progress, I also feel like, who cares? Like, how many people are even... If you are listening to this bit right here, right now, in the comment section down below, I want you to comment something involving the word orange. Okay? Orange. Because I absolutely believe there is not a soul on earth who is hearing the words I'm saying right now. I'm not going to push that. I'm not going to say something that's going to get me, like, canceled or whatever, but I could. But I won't, but I could. Anyway, next week, what do we got coming out? Next week, we are in month 47 of this show, give or take my strange numbering at times. We have, in no particular order, Action Comics, All-Star Section 8, Batman Beyond, Cyborg, Gotham Academy, Gotham by Midnight, Green Lantern, Lobo, Midnighter, Prez, Teen Titans, our weekly series of Batman and Robin Eternal, and 2 new number ones. Yes, that's right. Even this late in the game, we're getting new number ones. The first of which is Harley's Little Black Book, which, if you know me and my Harley books, great. I love the fact that this one has an extended page count all the time. And the other one is actually the beginning of probably the last event, give or take how you define the word event, of the New 52, which is Robin War. I believe that involves Grayson, Robin, son of Batman, and We Are Robin, along with 2 one-shots on either side. But Robin War is one of those one-shots, so we'll be checking out that next week. Be ready for a beefy episode. Yeah, that's really going to do it for me. Thank you very much for watching, listening, however it is you consume this podcast. Be sure to interact with it positively and give it some likes, give it some loves, give it a, you did good enough, son, and that's all that matters. And then it'll say, I love you, Dad, and you say, I love you too, son. I'm sorry, I'm living out a little fantasy here. Anyway, if you are only listening to this podcast, you might not be able to comment on the YouTube video. But if you want to share those comments, you can go ahead and list them over in the Patreon, the Discord, the subreddit. All things totally valid, totally free, except for the Patreon, pretty much by definition. Never mind on the free part. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, listening. Be sure to tune in next week, and always try to remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.